Welcome, everybody, to my second Mooch's interviews. And let me tell you something. Tonight's a special event for me. You guys all know that I've been nothing but ranting and raving when Jay comes on the show. But, Jay, welcome to my show again. I do appreciate you taking your time to step out and hang out with us today.
Thank you for having me on again. First
Absolutely.
of all, the other thing I wanted to say, I wanted to thank your viewers and your listeners for all the support that I got on Twitter and my Facebook since the last time I was on. It's actually, I haven't been in a community, like came onto a podcast and had that many people reach out and say, hey, we really appreciate what you did. So I wanted to personally thank them before we got started.
No, you know what? And thanks for saying that. I don't give my fans credit enough. I call them fans. They're really subscribers, but they poise themselves. They've given themselves a name. They're known as the Mooch Maniacs, and they literally do care. I think what we were talking about just a little bit off air just now, Jay, is that we're going to get into how dedicated you are, but I try to take this very serious. I came on the scene a little under 2 years ago, and I take it pretty serious. I think the people that sub me take me pretty serious, and they know that I do care. I do take notes. I do put some sort of strategy together before I go on to a live podcast. I know a lot of people probably just hit start broadcast and then just hope something falls out of their mouth that makes sense. Mm-hmm. We're going to get into one of the reasons, and I think everyone needs to know this in the audience. I've given Jay praise, but what's different about today is me and Jay are going to get to sit here, have a one-on-one discussion, and the audience is going to get a chance to really kind of pick our brains about what it is we're saying, and it's not in the typical podcast form where you're just rushing to get your words out to try and one up another person on the panel, which is what's fun about podcasting, to be honest with you, Jay. But
yeah, I'm good at that.
Yeah, you are. That's the whole point. But let's talk about you for a second, Jay. And I wanna dive into a little bit about what you said in your review, and then we're gonna revisit it. When you do reviews in general, we'll let some of the audience shuffle in. How is it that you go about any of them? Let's not talk about No Man's Sky yet. Let's talk about just your process. How do you like scale hours wise into a game, or does it have to be that you complete it before you review it? How do you go about it?
Well, it's all going to come down to what type of game it is. I mean, if it's NHL 2017, I can pretty much get that out within a block of, say, 10 hours, because you only have to play 10 or 15 different matches, and you kind of understand that, go through the game modes. But when you get to a game like No Man's Sky, let's just use that for an example. There's a lot of different opinions that are going to come out about that type of game, and I don't feel comfortable just playing it for 2 hours, which I did notice quite a few people did. Only play it for 2 hours and then talk about it on their shows, which I always think it's silly. I mean, if you play a game like Witcher 3 or, let's use Rise of the Tomb Raider, for example.
Yeah.
When that came out, I played the hell out of that game, inside and out, to experience absolutely everything, just so I could make sure that when I talked about it, I knew what side missions were the best, what it meant to upgrade, everything that you can go through a game, like in terms of the aspects of different features. I went through everything. Mm-hmm. Then, when you get games like No Man's Sky, it's a lot more difficult for me to, like I say in my review, it's very difficult for me to actually review something like that, because it's at that point, it's just personal opinion. I could tell you what you can do in the game, how you can do it. However, everyone's getting a different experience as they're playing through it. So for me, I had to play the game for 50 hours before I actually felt comfortable saying, hey, I think I know what this game actually is.
That's tremendously impressive, Jay. I don't like to interrupt someone when they're in thought, but that is something that people have to sit down and understand. 50 hours. There's a lot of people, and you mentioned it in the review, okay? You do mention it, that a lot of people that reviewed this game, and we're not going to mention any names, but some of the major publications and gaming media, we're aware that they're probably putting 6 to 10 hours in, maybe 15 at most. And you made it very clear that in this particular game, that wasn't really enough to get the gist of what this game was trying to portray. And I think what you're saying in other games, you've felt the same way, where maybe some other reviewers are, kind of like other people who like review books. They skim the books. They don't read the book.
The way that I look at this is, if the studio is going to take their time, work on a game for 5 years, then I can give them that amount of time, and I can give the audience my time to tell them that, right? It's just like
yes.
a different experience for everyone else. However, we're talking about artists, developers, programmers, all coming together to create something that's unique. And I don't feel like playing it for 5 hours is enough time to justify a review on that. And I mean, if you really want to nitpick, or you really want a dead giveaway on who didn't really do their job on No Man's Sky, just simply look at the footage that's uploaded to the review, and you'll notice that most of the people have the first ship that you get in the game. Everybody gets that ship.
Yes.
And all of the footage, yes, you could say they maybe just recorded at the beginning and then played for another 20 hours. However, why would you do that? If you're a reviewer, why wouldn't you show like a better ship or, you know, something else? But most of the footage I saw was just literally first hour, 2 hours into the game.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a bit silly.
It is, and it's funny how now everyone in the audience to realize this. I'm sure anyone that knows me at all knows I did not pick up No Man's Sky. I did not play it. I have, however, and this may be comical to some, but it is the truth. I've watched almost now, I want to say almost 3.5 hours of different Let's Plays throughout the YouTube community. And I'm watching the people that do a good job and do it for a living. Okay. I didn't watch the people that were being goofy or the ones that are just, you know, picking on it to pick on it for that sake. I watched people that do it for a living. And I'm going to give my opinion from the outside looking in, and you're going to get a detailed opinion from somebody who played it from the inside looking out, being Jay. And Jay, let's start to get into our subject here. Okay, let's talk about No Man's Sky. And I've labeled this the controversy that is No Man's Sky, because a lot of people keep saying to me, Mooch, why do you keep talking about this? And I said it is something that needs to be talked about for multiple reasons. There's a lot of layers here. This isn't just, I don't like it, it's a Sony product. That's not why you're here. That's not why I'm doing this. There's different layers. There's videos that have come out recently. I've been following this story for a long time. My very first video, the main attraction was, and I apologize, you know, this is what I said. My quote and my slogan was, No Man's Sky, more like no one cares. And I was one of the first. I know we've seen a lot of 3-word slogans this past week to make fun of it, but this was quite some time ago when I did that. My point was, I was completely lost as a consumer on what this project was. And I want to say something to you, Jay, and I want to hear what you think. I don't think this slogan's been used since Apollo 13, but I'm going to go ahead and label No Man's Sky the successful failure. And I think by the end of this, I'm going to come back to it and just see how you answer it now and how you answer it then. Do you think that's a proper term for this game? Do you see where I'm coming from with that?
No, it absolutely is. I don't think there is a better term for the name.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't.
The way that the reason I say successful failure, and of course anybody that knows Apollo 13, the whole point of that was that the point was they were supposed to go land on the moon. The project went completely south. There was a lot of technical difficulties, yet at the same time the crew came back safe and sound. So basically, you know, there's the success. Here, the success is the week 1 sales. But the failure, in my point in this, is the technical failures, the issues that happened. And yes, from a standpoint of Hello Games and maybe Sony, maybe at some point somebody still lit a Cuban at the end of the week and said, you know what, we made our money back and we made a few bucks, and so be it. Let's move on. But as far as a game goes, Jay, this game was sold to me with one word in mind: longevity. And I just didn't get that from this game. I don't think this game's going to give the longevity to majority of the consumers and game players. They don't have the patience or necessarily that background that you've kind of built up into your repertoire. Dive in a little bit and just let me know, where do you think the successes and failures were? Let's skim the top and then we'll dive in.
All right. I think the failures have to come in on Sony's behalf. Let's just be honest about this. And let me just also put a disclaimer out there that I'm not really a fanboy of either.
No, you're not.
I think that some of the people in your audience, I'm talking directly to the people that are, you know, that tweet me and say that they love Xbox and they hate PS4. That's totally fine. But let me remind everybody that No Man's Sky is probably coming to Xbox One. So for you to say you're not going to play it because it was on PS4 first, that's, to me, is a little silly as a gamer. I would want to experience it if it was a good game, and that's where we're going to get into if it is a good game. Now, so in saying that, I am definitely not a fanboy of either system, but I'm going to say that Sony definitely took the ball and ran with it, thinking that I've been thinking about this since I knew that I would be coming on here. I think that there's a few different aspects that we should talk about here, and I think that one of them is definitely marketing. Another one has to be promises, misleading promises during the whole launch of this game, and all of the interviews we saw, everything that Sean Murray said about the game, and then the false hype that really damaged the game as it came out. So
Okay.
I honestly think that what happened here was there's a studio of like 25, 26 people. They've got this game that they're working on that has all of these ideas, spectacular ideas if they can pull it off. However, these ideas take more than a team of 24 people, and they don't have enough time. So Sony steps in and likes the idea of saying, we can really drop some money into this, and we can put out there, hey, we support indie development.
Mm-hmm.
Because indies, as everybody knows out there, are a huge thing right now. And all, when an indie game drops and it's on your console and it's exclusive and it's winning awards, it gives some sort of sense of like, this company is full of heart, like it's for the underdog, or it's sitting back and it's thinking, damn, we need to find the best developers out there to make the best games, right? Realistically, let's be honest here, it is about that, because I know there's a lot of people that work in gaming that are passionate, and there's gamers that are passionate that see that in the games. However, this whole industry is based on money. Sony wouldn't be going to this company if the game was a piece of shit.
Right.
So I'm thinking what happened here was Sean Murray had a visionary idea.
Mm-hmm.
Sony stepped in and basically gave him the usual DLC, let's patch it up after it comes out talk. You've got all of this stuff on your plate. Now, this is just one way to look at it. This is just my theory on what happened with this game.
Okay.
Because we could go over what's missing from the game, what he promised, and it's not in the game.
Correct.
So
there's a large portion of that, but we'll get into that.
It's a massive portion. To be honest, it's probably 70% of what he said is not there.
Right.
Which to me is ridiculous. To say that publicly and then have a game come out, I think it's just piss poor PR and branding. I don't think they have any idea what they were doing over there. I think it was just this miscommunication between Hello Games and Sony on exactly what he should say publicly. However, Sony doesn't want to step on any toes because it's an indie dev. Yep. They don't want to get, in the way of that. So there's some sort of miscommunication that happens during the development of the game. Sony for sure knows that all of those features exist somewhere. However, the game that we got doesn't have those features. Then, on top of it, we got Sean Murray now saying, in the press he said before, all updates are free.
Right.
He said that numerous times. Now he's going back on that, saying that maybe some of the things that we're going to be putting into the game are too large to not charge DLC prices on. Which is a dead giveaway that Sony stepped in probably in the last year of development and basically said, listen, this game is incredible, but some of these things that you have in here, you're not going to get done in time. And we need it out for this season. We need it for this time. It needs to fill this spot on our calendar.
Yep.
We gave you all this money, so you're going to spend the next year stripping out all of those features you've been promising.
Well, Jake, if I'm interrupting you, please say I'm in the middle of a moment.
Go ahead.
I want you to know something. I do watch some of the other folks. Like I'll shout their names out because nothing here is incriminating at all. It's actually a benefit to them. Greg Miller and Colin Moriarty, who do a kind of funny games. I watched their No Man's Sky launch impressions, and the one thing Colin said that I thought was very interesting, and it ties in with what you're talking about. I want to know if you know about this. There was a day one patch that you are aware of. Were you aware that basically it had almost 50 or 60 line items, and it was changed? The way Colin said it, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not going to say I'm quoting him. He said it completely altered the game from what he even thought it was. Meaning Sony basically, I think, said at some point in this development process, you've got to go back to the drawing board, and this is what we want coming out the gate. Maybe something was broken, maybe something wasn't ready, whatever it was. But that's why what you said, 70% of this game hasn't truly come out. I think it's because they had to alter this game drastically, and hence why there were strikes and Sony was so tight-lipped about this game. Does that make any sense? That's coming from Colin, and those guys are fairly close with the Sony organization.
Absolutely. I believe that 110%, because when you get a game like this coming out and it's missing 70% of the features, somebody has to answer for that. And that's another issue with this as well. Sean Murray and his tight lips. He's hurting himself. The fact that he just released a patch literally in the last couple of hours or today at least with no line notes to say what it's fixing is fucking ridiculous. Still at this point in time, how can you be at Hello Games watching all of this go down and not go to the the device that you use to communicate all those promises and say, listen,
right,
we made a mistake in saying that those things would be here and they're coming. He hasn't even said that, which is just, this is the reason why I wanted to come on here and talk about it. And people are always saying, well, why you keep talking about No Man's Sky, blah, blah, blah.
Right, me too. I get that too. But Jay, do you think, and this is early on, you have every right to change your mind as this interview goes through. My next question to you that ties in with this is should we at this point in the conversation point the finger at Sony or Sean Murray?
To be honest, it's both of their faults that this has happened. I mean, if you look at the credits of the game, this is another dead giveaway. Look at the credits of the game and look at the team that made it versus the amount of people at Sony that worked on the game in some fashion. Literally, like 26 people made the game, and then literally it looks like hundreds of Sony people came in thereafter and dealt with localization and all sorts of things, right?
Yes.
To me, I just can't get over the fact that he promised all of that stuff. He felt very sincere when he released the first trailer on the Video Game Awards with Jeff.
Yes.
That was a passionate thing, and you could tell Jeff saw something in that game. Everybody did.
Absolutely.
And the game we got is not the game that we saw in the footage, ever. None of it. What we got was a shell of what it's supposed to be. However, is it going to lead up to what it was supposed to be? Eventually, but now we're going to have to pay even more money to get the promises. This is why I wanted to come on here, because I wanted to bring up a little video game by Gearbox Software called Alien, whatever the fuck it was called.
I know what you mean.
Colonial Marines.
Yes.
That was an absolute shit show.
Yeah, that was apparently called the failure. That was just not...
Well, the thing is, they showed footage, they made promises, it came out, it was nothing like it was. And I'm not saying that this is the same scale.
No.
But I am saying that we have to be cautious of these things. We have to be open-minded of these things as well. We can't just sit back and be like, hey, I'm, the game came out and it's not getting good scores, so it's a piece of shit. That's not necessarily what this means to the game. What I wanted to talk about are the mistakes that the companies have made to lead up to this point. You still there?
Yeah, no, I'm here.
I was going to say, did you fall asleep on me?
No. I'm all ears. Go ahead, Jay.
Well, basically what I was going to say was you've got two sides of the coin here. You've got somebody who plays the game and sees the potential of this game. So to really talk about the potential of the game would be we should talk about what's missing from the game.
Well, that's right there. When you say what's missing from the game, one of the key things is the element of what sold this to the audience, especially when Jeff was first talking to him back at those VGAs, which I don't know if it was actually called that at that point. I think that was different. That was when Joel McHale was still hosting. But it was, you can do anything and you can do whatever you want. But my question to you, Jay, is can you do whatever you want in this game? That's what was sold to us.
You can definitely do whatever you want. However, what you're doing is not necessarily a lot of fun.
Right.
It comes down to people who, like dungeon crawlers, for instance, going in the same dungeon over and over and over, killing a goblin, picking up some loot. This is no different than landing on a planet, picking up some loot, pissing off the planet, going on another one. It's the same thing over and over and over. You can clearly see that there's major chunks of the game that are just completely missing. And you're wondering, like, where is the rest of the game? And the other thing is you're paying full price for a game that is just broken promises. So you're getting this experience, which in my review, I gave it a 9. I gave it a 9 already. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10.
Right.
And I truly believe that Sean Murray's stuck between a hard place and a rock.
Well, he was
Because
definitely, because he had Sony's demands on one side, and then he also gave I think he gave an unrealistic perspective of what the game was going to be. You know, if me and you were in some sort of a brain tank, okay, we're in a think tank, and we're sitting there, and we're like, Jay, let's make this amazing game right now. And you say, okay, let's start here, and we'll go there, and we'll go there, and we'll go there. But as you get closer and closer to your deadline, a lot of those think bubbles kind of disappeared and faded out because they were just thoughts that were out there. Sean Murray seemed to have brought all of those things from the think tank from day one, almost right to television in advertising. And that's where people were misled. I mean, you see it all the time. There is that one comical video that I sent out yesterday, and I really love how you watched it and you said, I can't really argue. A lot of this is true. And when you said that, I just started laughing. I said, that's great that Jay actually sees this. But there's a couple of the big streamers on Twitch that are on there. And the one guy starts laughing. He's like, $60. He's going $60, you know, because that's where I think herein lies the problem. If you're Sony and you know that this is an issue, why not put this game at $40? You would, once you put your price point at $60, and you started this interview today, Jay, and you said this is an indie developer. That's true. I think they're a team of 12 people. But my point being is that once you put a price tag of $60, well, now you're with the big boys. And once you go into that world, you get criticized like you're in that world. And that's like, look at Ori and the Blind Forest, okay? Ori, I thought, was seamless. I thought it came out. If people say, "Oh, there was an issue here or there," but I didn't notice it. I beat the game. I enjoyed it thoroughly. But the price tag was $19.99, and maybe that's because Microsoft's just got that kind of money to flaunt. I don't know. But the point being was, anything that may have happened in that game, you look the other way because it was a $20 game and it was fabulous. Now, this game is much more in depth than Ori and the Blind Forest in the aspect that it's got 18 quintuple planets and all this other good stuff. But I'm saying realistically, I don't know if you said it yourself. You got off, not when you got later on and you were discussing in your review how you would mine for gold and you dug through the actual the earth itself, or not the earth, but the soil itself. But early on, you're just mining, you're gathering, you're fueling. You're like, I want to go over to that planet. So you get in this thing, you take off towards that planet. You go, I'm not going to make it to that planet. I have to stop at this other planet I didn't want to go to, just so I can fuel and mine and fuel up again. And that seems to be the repetitious. Not many people are getting the 50 hours. I think they got to 10 hours, and they're like, I don't know if I want to see another planet in a different color. So, I mean, that's where I think the problem is. Now, if you put this game at $20, it's a fun game to just kind of mosey around and get lost in with the music and everything else that's in there. It's very subtle, very, very pleasing, very easy on the ears, easy on the eyes. Do you see what I'm saying? I just think that Sony got a little money hungry here, and they did very well. They scooped up big-time money in that first week.
I think, to be honest, the perfect metaphor for this is pretend your birthday is in a week.
Right.
And all week your mom's telling you, I'm going to get you this custom-made cake with your favorite character on it and sprinkles and all that shit.
Yes.
And she shows you photos of other cakes that just look incredible. And you know you're going to get something like that. So you're all in. I can't wait for this cake. She shows up to the house with the cake, and it's just literally the cake. No icing, no toppings, no filling, no nothing. It's just a sponge sitting on a plate.
Yes.
That is what No Man's Sky is at this moment.
My God.
And in saying that, this doesn't mean that the game can't turn into that amazing cake that it was promised. But
Jay, can 12 people do that?
Now, that's another question or something I want to get into. You've got 12 people right now. Sean Murray is saying right now publicly that they're spending all of their time working on basically fixing the bugs, customer service, as he put it, and nothing to do with the first two promised updates, which I believe are building space stations and also owning freighters in space, which is completely fucking pointless, to be honest, because you fly away from that galaxy and this, what does that mean?
Right.
This is the real problem with this game. He says these things, but he never follows up with exactly what it means. Can you play multiplayer? Yes, but the possibility of seeing another player is 0. Okay, day 1, 2 people find each other. Like, okay.
Yep.
You hear what I'm saying here? It's like, and he's like, oh, I'm blown away. He needs to go on camera. He needs to say what the game's supposed to be, where it's headed, why it's in this current state, what's missing from the game, why was it taken out, or why is it not there yet? He's talking about DLC already. meaning all of these amazing features that could come to the game could possibly be charged to us now, which is just ridiculous.
Jay, but there do I say he doesn't know the answer to that. And let me say why I say that without just sounding like a crazed fanboy. Hear me out for a second. He's on video right now. We can all see it. It's on that one collaboration. But if you don't want to watch that one and you think it's too comical, check it out yourself, folks. You can go to YouTube. He's asked by multiple reporters, one being that Anthony Carboni, I think is a credible source. And people keep asking him, so what is this about? And like you say, what you end up getting is him snickering that little giggle, which I'm not making fun of him. That's a defense mechanism for I don't know. There's the game. What he really would have to say is this game is purely about survival / exploration, and there's not much to it, folks. And unfortunately, that's not a good sales pitch. And
I think really the problem here was he was in bed with Sony. Sony said you got to take this, and this out of the game,
yes,
which leaves him in a state of disarray because now he doesn't know what to say. But he still lets things slip. He still says you can own a freighter, you can change the name of your ship, you can take down a whole freighter, you can see freighters crashed on the planets, you can build your own space stations. There's tons of little clues in the game that sort of point towards there being more elements than there actually are in the game.
Jay, but here's the thing. If all these things he promised that you can still do, hear me out on this. You can name things, right? You can name a different species if you find it, or you can name a certain mineral or whatever. If it's something that, but here's the thing. If nobody else can see it, who cares what you name it? No one's ever going to know.
But that's not how the game works. I actually came across somebody's planet, and it said it was found by somebody already.
Okay.
So I know that the game does do that. So I landed on that planet, and you got to keep in mind this planet that you land on is also the same size of Earth. So the chances of you finding any space stations named by this other player are slim to none. The planet might be named after somebody. However, you got to keep in mind, I don't know the actual total amount of space little stations that are hovering around the planets, right, or the space little huts that you see on the planets. I don't know how many there are in each planet. If it's the size of Earth, I'm guessing there has to be a million. There has to be like, I don't know, like it's the size of Earth and they're pretty much within walking distance of each other. So I'm guessing hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
And you can name each section of that. So each planet can be named, and then there can be 100,000 space stations that can be named on the planets, like the little huts that you can go into. Mm-hmm. And then also the beacons can be named. So there's millions of names on that one planet. And then of course the animals and all the vegetation can be named. So the chances of somebody actually finding something like that is slim to none, but I did see a planet that was named by somebody else. So to give him credit, that does work.
Okay. Now,
no, go ahead. Where were you going to go with that, basically?
Well, my point was this. I'm trying to think of a game that is in reference to when I do something. I'm going to be generic. But there's a lot of games. And if there's a game that comes to mind, Jay, just say, oh, what you mean is something like this. There's games where I go in and I do something. Okay, like Destiny. Let me just take Destiny, for example, okay? I go into Destiny. Why did I play Destiny last night 3 hours in Iron Banner? Not just because I wanted to get a cool helmet or scarf for my damn character, okay? But after I get it, the minute I launched today, right, I played like 3 hours after my buddies all crashed because I was just up, couldn't sleep, right? We all have that issue, so it was great games. And so I'm up there. I'm just playing Iron Banner. I got some great gear. All of a sudden, throw it on today. Someone's going to say to me, oh, shit, Mooch, that's actually pretty cool. When did you get those? When did you get that chess piece? Or when did you get this? Or when did you get that? Where I was going with this was, okay, you found a planet. But a lot of people in other reviews were saying they hadn't. And they were 12 hours in, 13 hours in. Remember, some people aren't going to go to the extent that you were. At some point, it's like, if I see something and I haven't seen anything named JKB's mineral, maybe after I name 3 or 4 things, I'm like, oh, screw it. I'm not going to name this anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
see, I know where you're going with this. And I think what needs to be discussed at this point in time is the actual game plan for No Man's Sky. It's not just simply drop the disc on PS4 and PC and walk away. Sony changed the whole game when they said, take this out. We're going to charge DLC. No Man's Sky has potential to turn into the next Minecraft, especially when it comes over to Xbox One, which, you know, there's huge rumors of that happening.
Yes.
There's aspects of this game that I could say it can turn into the adult version of Minecraft.
Okay.
And I could say that the score could go up potentially because of the promises that are not in the game. It had to be a 6.5 based on what I played for 50 hours.
Okay.
However, I think we should go over some of the things that are missing that would really affect the gameplay. And the number one reason, or sorry, the number one point that we should bring up is the online multiplayer.
Okay.
He said it was multiplayer. He said it so many different times. However, he said it would be impossible to find another player. Now, they're looking at all of the negativity that's coming out right now. And I'll tell you, the number one thing that needs to come to this game is simply, and I'm not saying a massive multiplayer online. I'm saying if you could just play with one friend in the base game that we have right now, it would make it so much more fun just right now to do that.
I think that's a necessity. And you know, you're pitching something that I like to hear, but it seems like it's all right. So here's the thing. So you're saying Sony came in, Sony made certain demands. This is going to change. This is going to happen.
Well,
the DLC. I just don't know to the level of what you're discussing, Jay. In order for this to happen, let's just use the words Minecraft. Okay. I don't know if Hello Games can do this. I don't know if they're up to the, I think Sony or somebody, okay, has to come in with a lot of money and start to help these people out. Because in order for it to turn into that and to even get this multiplayer aspect put into it, you're right. You're 100% right. First of all, I want to say that. I agree with you. This game can change 180 degrees from where it is perceived today if we can have the multiplayer aspect, one friend, not 100, not 1,000,000, not a quintuplet, okay, or whatever the hell number he came up with. I love that. I've been doing math for a very long time. That's a very large number he keeps bringing up. But what I'm saying is not just, I just want one friend and give me a building. Give me a creative mode, right? Give me, how about that? We don't have that. And I don't know. I mean, how about this, Jay? Even if that's to come, that could be years from now.
See, this is the thing. We don't know the deals that have been made behind closed doors.
That's true.
I'm going to just say this right now. The fact that this is an exclusive on PS4 and PC hurts it.
Yes.
At the moment. It's missing out all of the revenue from Xbox One, where I'd rather play this type of game with my Elite controller. And yeah, I'll do it again, and I'll say it right now. The Elite controller is the best controller you can ever use ever.
Absolutely.
So I'm just saying this. The fact that Sony paid to have it on their system only, and PC, of course, it hurt the game.
Yeah.
It hurt the game because they'd be sitting on more money, which means they could bring in more people to work onto the game. And now what we have to deal with are 16 people sitting in a room going, how can we fix all these bugs quickly? So he's releasing patches. He's not being transparent. He's not saying anything at this point. And that's what pisses me off the most about this.
That is interesting.
This guy is so passionate about what he wants to create. He says when he's a little boy, he wants to go to other planets. So he made a game where you can do that. Okay, that's simply what the game is. 6.5 out of 10, great. However, as you were saying all of this stuff, you mentioned all of these really cool features that, you know, not even just Xbox fanboys want to try, or PS4 or PC. I'm talking about gamers at heart hear these ideas. And this is where the hype machine starts. They hear, holy shit, you get into space battles? You can take down another, massive ship in space and collect all of its loot?
Yeah.
And then you could do that above the atmosphere and then fly down, and you can create a base? What? Like, there's multiplayer. I can accidentally run into somebody and then decide to kill them and take their stuff and their ship, or like, this is incredible.
And none of that exists.
And none of that, what I just said, is in the game that I just played, which is, this is what I wanted to get at. If you're somebody out there and you're making a game, I got to say, in the defense of Sean Murray, it's got to be difficult. It has to be difficult to not be excited about what you want to do, and you have this idea, and now you've got the money because Sony's just stepped in. However, I'm going to use another example that I just figured out the other day. I'm a huge, huge fan of Kevin Smith. When he made his first film, Clerks.
Yep. Very good film, by the way.
I love that film. I love him. He's very inspirational. If you don't know who he is, watch Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy. Amazing director.
I second everything you just said. I've seen them all 100 times. Go ahead.
Well, let me say, he's an amazing character director. I wouldn't say that he's spectacular with, action movies and stuff, but
absolutely. It's true.
His writing, he sort of created something that I grew up on, right?
Right. It's the writing.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is because he made a little film independent. Sean Murray made a little game independent.
Yeah.
Then Miramax came along in terms of buying Clerks from Kevin Smith, and it took them 7 years to make back the amount of money that they spent on publicity for Clerks. Wow. After he sold it to Miramax, it took Miramax 7 years to break even on that movie that was made for like less than, what was it, like maybe 10 grand? I forget how much they spent on it, 10 grand or whatever. It took them.
It couldn't have been much.
Yeah, but this is what I wanted to bring up. So Sony comes in there, drops all of this money, tons of money. Who pays that back? It comes out of the game. It's going to take a long,
right.
you know, yeah. So what I'm talking about here is that when Kevin Smith made his last movie, Red State, which I haven't actually seen.
I have not either.
He decided to not sell it and stay independent and go to the crowd sort of funding way and say, listen, come to the shows. I only need $4 million to break even on this. Everything after that, we're going to make the money back. However, if he sold it to a major studio, they'd be $20 million in debt.
Correct.
Because people don't understand that. You buy a game like this from Holo Games, exclusive rights or whatever it may be, and you got to keep in mind, Sony spent millions of dollars on publicity for No Man's Sky.
Yes, they did.
So they're sitting back there. They're not going, yeah, release the buggy game right now with all those amazing features. And also, listen, hang on a second, Sean. We're going to have to renegotiate the release schedule of No Man's Sky because we need to make that money back. Who do you think paid for that? Holo Games paid millions of dollars to do that? No. Every ad you see is a Sony ad, all of them. That's millions of dollars, and this is what people don't understand. I was
just going to say, I'm glad you're bringing this up because the average gamer and anyone that's even a lot of people in the audience right now are kind of nodding their head saying, now that you're saying it, it makes sense. But I didn't even think of it quite that that's the way negotiations can break down.
Well, absolutely. So you've got Kevin Smith, who, guess what? He made his $4 million back. It broke even, and he even made a little bit of money off of that movie, and it didn't take 7 years.
Right.
Hear what I'm saying? So No Man's Sky is even a bigger gamble, where Sony literally has some sort of say on how the game's going to be released because they've paid for the exclusive rights. And people out there are saying like, oh, Sony didn't, they just chose it. Bullshit. Why are all the ads Sony and not PC?
Right.
Every single ad out there is for a Sony PlayStation 4. Buy it on our system. It's the best over here, blah, blah, blah. That's not free. So now I'm getting into the branding of this game, and then we could talk about how that went downhill.
Okay.
You've got the branding of the game, which Sony has spent millions of dollars on. Holo Games has probably spent millions of dollars on their game as is.
Absolutely.
So how these things work, Sony walks in there, says, we'll give you this huge chunk of money, which is going to extend the development time past release so you can make your money back. We're going to need this amount of money back based on the publicity we're going to put into the game. And then what do? You wake up the next day, as Sean Murray did, and he says to himself, shit, maybe I shouldn't have said all of the updates are free.
Right.
Shit.
But how do you backpedal? How do you backpedal, especially with this community?
So how he backpedaled simply was he said that some of the updates are so major that they have to consider the fact that they can't be free, which is true. This is all true what he is saying. However, when I get back into the branding and the Sony deal, somebody at Sony should have sat Sean Murray down for a week or two, and they should have came out with a game plan to discuss how they'll talk about the game, why they're going to say certain things. Look at Disney and Star Wars. They're so calculated on every single move they make, and they build up the hype, and the movie delivers, and everyone's happy with Episode 7. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people were.
A lot of people were happy, yeah.
Now you've got Rogue One. They didn't show Darth Vader. They didn't show his face. They showed him from the back, which got everybody excited. These guys know what they're doing in marketing. Sony knows what they're doing in marketing. That's why the PS4 is doing so well. They market the shit out of that because when you put the Xbox One S against the PS4 in this current state right now, I'm going to go Xbox over the PlayStation 4 simply because it's a little bit more, I'm not going to say it's more powerful.
Right.
But I'm going to say I've noticed games are running a little bit better on my S than my PS4 at this current time. Now, am I a fanboy for saying that? Absolutely not. I'm just saying I go with what's best at this current time, and that's what's best. So going back over everything here, they simply made a major mistake. Look at how Minecraft started. It started as this quirky, weird game, kooky game where you're just sort of like digging in the ground, and you can build minor things, and
Yes.
kids are starting to understand it, and parents are like, what the hell is this? Now look at Minecraft. It's worth billions of dollars, and it's been changed and updated numerous times. And look who bought that and saw the potential in that.
Well, Microsoft's already rumored to have made their money back on that. But do you think that,
of course,
can No Man's Sky? What about allowing modders to come in?
See, that's where I wanted to head here. Now, if Sean Murray came out in the beginning and said, we're building something in tune of Minecraft, where in the beginning, guys, you're going to be able to travel to planets, collect these things, craft things, and then here's how we're going to roll out the updates. But this is only a team of like 16 to 24 people, as we keep talking about.
Yeah.
And I have to agree with you. How the hell are they going to even introduce anything into that?
It's going to be quite demanding for them to do this.
So they said they have 1 week right now to fix all the bugs, and they say that 70% of all of the issues that they've been dealt are going to be fixed in the first major update, which I believe came out today. So 70% of those glitches and the game crashing are fixed already.
How many times, Jay, can you, and this is not to nitpick, but we're talking about bugs. I want to bring it up while we're on this subject. How many times did your PS4 crash during your 50-hour run?
Here's the best part about that. My system hard crashed, meaning I had to unplug it from the wall. It didn't just crash into the dashboard.
Right.
It crashed, and I had to unplug my PS4. It did that once for me. That's it.
Okay, so you're saying it was only once, but it was one hell of a crash when it did.
Well, I've never seen my PlayStation do that ever.
Right.
It's never done that ever since day one.
And I don't know what would be causing that, but is this something? I mean, you know how they have line items when they go through bug fixes and updates that come out. Is that one of the ones that is being dealt with?
You ready for this answer? Again, Sean Murray is not being crystal clear with the fans at this point in time. He says there's an update that everyone's going to be happy with that fixes 70% of the issues. However, guess what he didn't do? He didn't give any details on the lines of code that are being fixed or any of that stuff. He didn't say, this is being fixed. The hard crash is being fixed. We're fixing this. We're changing it so you can name your ships. This is the real thing that actually pisses me off, that I want to believe in this guy. I want to believe in the game. You know what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
As a gamer, I'm passionate about these things. I want to believe that what these people are saying to us is true. If you went to the grocery store and you bought some cereal and you wanted honeycomb and you got home and inside it was like fucking Rice Krispies, you'd be pissed off. I bought this for a reason, because that's what it was supposed to be, and now it isn't. And somebody is accountable for that. Is it Sony? Is it Sean Murray? That's kind of what we're discussing today. However, there's a whole other side of the coin that I wanted to bring up. This game, when it is eventually the game that he promised us, I think it's going to be fucking amazing. Amazing.
You know, I'll tell you right now, Jay, you've kind of put this game into a perspective that I didn't know was possible. I'll be honest with you. I thought this game was to be released, and I thought what you had in your hand was the final product. I really was.
See, that's sorry to cut you off, but that's what a lot of people believe this would be. However, I believe it's a Minecraft strategy that Sony really believes in. And will it come to? I mean, here's the telling point that
Xbox, how can this be? Sony's going to stop sinking money into it. They don't own it in the same retrospect that Microsoft owns Mojang. So it's not
exactly. That's why I wanted to bring this up. Sony hasn't purchased Hello Games for one reason, because Hello Games doesn't want to be purchased.
Right.
They want to be able to put it on Xbox, and the only reason they can't put it on there is because they have to spend the money with Sony to pay off the debt that they have for the exclusives.
Right.
So, like, people don't understand this. When a company comes along and says, yeah, I want the game exclusive, that doesn't mean that they get a shit ton of money and Sony just makes the ads. That's not how that works. There could be a deal where the company gets a certain amount of money up front. It's the same as signing a record deal. You know, record deals are worth shit these days. It's the same thing as selling your movie independently. It'll take 7 years, but it's not on you, it's on the company. So this means that there's some sort of deal in place that they have an exclusive time to get that money back. So it's Sony taking a gamble on the game, and they make basically all of the profits back until that's paid for. And the deal could be simply put, hey, we're not going to let you release this game on Xbox One until we get our money back from the ads. It could be that deal. It could be any deal. We don't know the actual deal. So people out there reading or hearing this right now, it could be anything. We don't know the deals of, it's on PC. So what does that mean?
Right.
That means Hello Games did talk to Microsoft at some point because they have to.
Right.
So what I'm saying here is, in closing of bashing them for a second, I kind of want to just say, to be passionate about something is one thing, and we've seen so many people go out of their way to be passionate about something and then deliver absolutely nothing of what they promised us.
Yes.
What I'm saying right now is that I'm not happy with what Sean Murray is. As a customer, I paid for the game. I didn't get a review copy. They didn't send any of them out. This means that I'm just like anybody else listening right now. I just happen to make a video about it. If I'm dropping in Canada $74.99 plus tax in Canada on a game that has been built up in my mind on so much hope, and then all of a sudden, and by the way, on promises that are not even in the game, that is an issue. I mean, I don't understand why people are upset that we're even going to be talking about this. I mean, it's the same thing as going to buy a brand new Jaguar from a dealership and getting there and having some shit tires from a 1992 Cadillac on there. You'd be like, what the fuck is this? And they'd be like, well, the tires that are on, and you'd be like, no. I paid for that because that's what the ad said. It's the same thing as a video game.
It is.
However, I got to say one other thing. You got to keep in mind that a car can be art. Everything is art.
Absolutely.
Everything out there is art, right?
Right.
But people don't go buy a box of cereal and get something else in it and go, this art is fucked up. That's cereal. That's what that's for.
Right.
Now, the reason I bring that up is because people don't also, in defense of No Man's Sky, this is a piece of art. And when you put business and art together, it becomes very difficult. And I got to say that Sean Murray definitely had some hard decisions. However, I still can't excuse the fact that there was nobody in PR to come up to him and say, listen, we got to do it this way. We got to do it this way. So now we are left, and as everybody listening knows, the gaming community is fucking horrible in terms of negativity. He got death threats because the game was delayed. I mean, yeah, probably 7-year-old did that, but still, it's, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
When Friends went off the air, I doubt they got death threats. You know what I mean? It's like when X-Files was canceled, did they get death threats? It's like gaming is just this place where a lot of kids are involved, and I'm positive a lot of the negativity comes from 7-year-olds who are sitting behind the computer with their other 7-year-old friends and saying like, I'm going to kill you, Sean Murray, because the game's not coming out.
Yeah, a lot of that's coming because of the youth. I mean, that's for sure.
Exactly. If it's a 34-year-old doing it, then that guy's got real problems. But I just got to say that kids don't understand what it means to make a piece of art until a certain age. It takes them years to develop into that. Some kids might be 5 and they'll go, oh, I know what art is. It means that I sit back, I create something, I put it out there, and people judge it. It's simple for you and I to sit here and judge No Man's Sky because we just go to the store, pop it in our system. We didn't do any of the work to make this game. We didn't, if he's sitting back and making these promises, then those promises must exist somewhere. I don't think he would say anything that they haven't actually produced in the game, which
Right.
does lead me into the fact that he was, I wouldn't say pressured. I'd say that they came up with a business plan when they realized the game wouldn't be 100% done, that they would take out major chunks of the game to sell as DLC.
Well, Jay, I want to interrupt you for 1 second here. I want to let everybody know that this is where I'm coming from. I think you've done a job here to say this is where you thought Sean Murray and his company faltered. But here's where I have a problem. And of course, you may have seen this spin coming, but it really is from the gut, my heart. I think Sony's the problem here because we've just said that Sony was the ones that came in, threw a buttload of money at them. Okay, when Microsoft did a similar move with Rise of the Tomb Raider, it was speculated that maybe 6 months before this puppy came out, Microsoft, I'm literally using keywords that I know are used in the industry that people kind of, it's a joke, but it's not. Microsoft has their team of ninjas, they call, that literally goes out. It's their top guru software guys. When a company that they have an investment in and they need help, they go out there and make sure, hi, we're Microsoft engineers. We heard you're having a hard time working with our system. We're here to help. Microsoft sends these people over. When Rise of the Tomb Raider came out exclusively on Xbox One, and then shortly then after went to PC, in both instances, it ran like butter, smooth as butter. My point being is that Sony comes in, throws a check. It's almost like when somebody says a yes man, if you will. Jay, you need somebody to be your producer for JKB Industries. Yes, this and that. I'll be your man. I'm your man. I'm a big fan of your show. I'll do it. And you're like, wow, this guy Mooch is going to come in and take care. What a resume. Wow, this is amazing. All of a sudden, I'm yes this, yes that. I throw all this attention, blah, blah, blah. And then you come in on Monday morning, you're like, why isn't the set all set up? What's going on here? Oh, Mooch isn't here yet. He's coming in at 9:30. He says he's going to be late today. My point being is that Sony comes in, throws all this money at Hello Games. I think Sony makes these promises to be what they're going to do to help. Microsoft helps all these companies along the way. They help the people that made Inside. They help the folks that at Half Moon Studios there that helped Ori and the Blind Forest. They're on record as going out and helping these people succeed on their platform because ultimately it helps them. Sony didn't help Sean Murray. I just don't see it. I think they cut him a check and said, that's what we do here. And then, by the way, we're also we're the big wigs. We cut the money. These are also the stipulations and the negotiation changes we want to make to the contract. You know, I'm sorry, but I see Sony as the ultimate bad guy. I think Sean Murray, when I watch him in those interviews, the reason he's sweating is, like you said, he's between a rock and a hard place. And that's Sony's fault. Sony didn't let him be the true creative artist. And that's the bullshit that started with this generation. Remember when this generation started, February 20th, 2013, at the Sony PS4 launch in New York City, when that went down. We're here for the independent gamer. We're here for the players. We're here for the gamers. Bullshit.
I just had something you put into my head.
Yeah.
Kojima, Konami.
Yes.
Okay, you got a major player in the gaming and a major developer. I just think I don't know if this is going to be true or not, but usually when a dev doesn't say something is because under contract they're not allowed.
Okay.
So you just made me think about this because I was just thinking in my head as you were saying, like, okay, Sony comes in there, throws the money down, and then Sean's got to deal with it. Why hasn't he? Okay, he's been open about the things that were supposed to be in the game, but now he's being closed-lipped on the things that aren't in the game.
Correct.
Doesn't make sense to me. It means that if I'm Sean Murray, I just released this game that I have my whole heart and soul into. However, I haven't said anything about it. What does that mean? What is that telling us? I think that if you look at it, it could mean that there are some sort of issues behind the scenes that we're not seeing.
Yes.
Between Sony and Hello Games, because neither of the companies have come forward to say jack shit.
Exactly.
About the promises. Neither of them have put out statements, which to me means that there's a breakdown in communication, or Sean's very pissed off with them.
Yep.
For the whole, now we have to go back on the DLC aspect. You know, I'm speculating here, but I mean,
leaving out something called micromanaging. When I have the ability at my place of work, Jay, to write the report up on what I'm working on, and then my boss will come over, and if he says something to me like, I'm just saying, like, oh, you need to change this, this, and this. That's fine. But what I'm saying is, I think what Sony did was, I think Sony stepped in, said, no, you're not doing this. You're going to do it like that. I think it completely blew him. Like, he was confused. And that's what I'm saying. I see confusion when he speaks. And like you said, we see a tight-lipped Sony. When is Sony tight-lipped, Jay? The only time Sony's tight-lipped is when
it's negative.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
You know, it does kind of, let's be honest here, it does make sense that Sean Murray's not happy with something and he's not talking about it because of that, because you could see he's frustrated right now. Everything he said on Twitter since the game came out, he said his mind's blown that two people found each other, which could have been a server error, as we all know. We don't know, but why hasn't Sean Murray come out and said, listen, we don't have that aspect online right now, or the server did crash, or there was an issue? He hasn't said what it was. It's ridiculous that he hasn't said anything like that.
Well, there's footage, Jay, that shows the two people that were there at the same time, but neither of them could see each other.
Yeah, well, they were on the same planet in the same section. However, it was different times of day, which
Okay.
So there's a whole theory that it could be a different server and the game is putting you into different servers, even though you're on the same planet, which means it would be even harder to come across somebody that you'd want to come across.
Yes.
But, I mean, we're getting close to the end here. I got to say, though, in closing, we've got a company of like 20 people, let's be honest here, sitting in an office right now. They've made, the game The Long Dark. It's been out for about 2 years now on Xbox One.
Yep, I know
game
exactly
preview.
what game it is. Yep.
It's a very fun game. It's got Elias Tefexis, David Hayter, I believe Mark Mears in that game. Very fun survival game.
Yep.
These guys came out of the gate and said, listen, our game's not done. We're going to go into game preview mode.
Yep.
You'll be able to buy it, but as we work on it, we update it, and it will make sure it's stable. I don't understand why Sony wouldn't have the same sort of outlook for a game like this. Why tell us all these promises, release a bare bones game, and then make us pay for the DLC when they could simply say, listen, this is a game that's always going to be in development. We're going to help Hello Games develop the game as it goes through its first year. We're going to give you this update, this update, this update for free. The fourth update, however, is going to be $9.99. It's going to introduce crafting on a planet in terms of building space ports or a town or whatever it may be.
Jay, let me ask you a question. Finish your thought. Finish your thought.
No, I was just going to say now my question to everybody is, why didn't they do that? And why are we left now wondering what the fuck happened? Exactly.
Now, here, my question ties into your rhetorical question is this. I was on a podcast earlier this week and I said, why did they release this game now? There was nothing. August is not the hottest time to release it. Right, any game. I know you don't get a lot of games coming out in August. It doesn't matter, July, August, or we all work on our backlogs this time. Okay, so my point being is that they could have postponed it or put it into game preview. But here's what somebody answered me, and it was brilliant. If this game was to even think of coming out this fall, we would. You want to talk about a Back to the Future moment where we're both disappearing off the picture? This entire conversation disappears. Everything disappears. All the views and discussions about No Man's Sky goes away because I think this game completely gets covered and forgotten about in the masses that is this upcoming fall's lineup. So, I mean, what would you have done? Myself personally, I would have put this game into either a game preview, which I don't think Sony currently
they don't do that.
Yeah, they don't do that, which is insane because games like We Happy Few, Ark, and I believe Elite Dangerous, and correct me if I'm wrong with those three titles, all went into the Xbox preview, and they're doing very well because the minute somebody even starts to get upset, somebody taps somebody and they either fix it, they also go, remember, it's in preview. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
a shield. It's a shield.
But here's another. I just lost my train of thought. I was going to bring up something. Oh yeah, every single game right now that we get on any system really is a game preview because they're all fixed with some sort of update. Yeah. Within 5 minutes. It's hardly. I would say that most of my PlayStation games, 50% of them have some sort of update when I'm reviewing them. Xbox. Tons of them have updates on day one that I play a different version than the release version. And then I play the release version and notice that they fix some things. I get an email from them saying, listen, we're not going to have this, and this ready. So can you take that in consideration? And guess what? I will because I'm a nice guy.
Right.
Now, Sony, there's no emails. There's no fucking review copies. There's no press releases. There's no videos online talking about how this is going to come out. Why is he saying all these things? Is it going to be in the game? Yes, it is. Okay, great. Game comes out, 6.5 out of 10. Why? Missing literally 70% of what he promised us. Now, if you did that with a Gears of War or Forza or Uncharted, if you promised those things and it didn't come out, people would lose their goddamn minds.
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing. And that's why at $60, it's in that category. Sony marketed it as a AAA.
That's why I wanted to have this discussion because people are sitting back. Oh, it's just an indie game. It's a full-fledged game. I don't care if it was made by 3 blind mice. It's coming. Sony paid a lot of money for this game.
Yes.
And now somebody needs to come out and say something. It just doesn't make sense to me. So how would you handle something like this game?
Well, personally, I told you this game would have to go into a preview program. This game's not ready. Or they made a lot of drastic. We just both agreed over the past half hour that Sony made a bunch of drastic changes. One of the changes that you would never hear a complaint from the media or the consumer is that would have lowered the price. You may have even sold more of them. Because $40, $30, this thing is probably selling into week 3, even as it stands today. Even as it stands with the issues it has today. At $30, this thing is moving out the door because of the amount of marketing. Yeah. Will it take Sony longer? Absolutely. There's less revenue coming in. I get the math. I understand that. But we're talking about a game that you and I, okay, and you talked me into, is basically a game that is going to have longevity. It's going to be a game that's like a Minecraft. It will have all these things coming down the line. Make less now and continue. Look at how many people. Jay, the number is staggering, I think. Please, in the audience, don't critique me for this, but I believe Minecraft is selling somewhere around 10,000 units. It's either a week or a day. I can't remember, but the number's staggering. It is staggering. So what I'm saying, and you know how much that game is? $20. It's $20. That's how you sell a game like that. And that's what this is. You have already agreed to that.
Absolutely. It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm going to say something really ballsy here. This is almost a free-to-play game. Thank you. With all of the add-on that should have came down the line, it should have been a Sony exclusive all the way, not on PC, and free-to-play. They drop it. It comes out. This right now is a free-to-play game. Yeah, that's what it is. And then when they listen to this, if this, okay, I'll be honest here. I would spend $40 right now, $39 Canadian, to buy the game outright, flat out for what it was, right?
Yep.
Then, say major update comes out, if it was like building space stations and space stations on the ground as well, if that was $9.99, guess what I would do? I'd buy it instantly. Boom. Yes. Okay, so now we're up $10. What's next? Okay, we're going to introduce multiplayer. Boom. Okay, $9.99. Okay, $20 up. Hear what I'm saying here? They did the wrong game plan here. And here's the main kicker. Is it really hurting them that we're sitting here discussing how bad this game currently is based on what they told us it would be? I don't really think so. I think that I don't think that us discussing this really matters much. The point of this is, are we going to have to deal with the future of video games this way? Are we going to have to do this with every single fucking game?
Well, let me answer your question though, Jay. Because what the issues are with No Man's Sky, I pray to God no. But I do want to say something. I want everyone to know that sometimes the grass is always greener, and we forget about what happened years ago. Jay, years ago when me and you were younger, and a lot of people that are looking at your picture are seeing a lot of cartridges behind you right now. And let me tell you something. Okay, that was the era that I grew up in. Okay, and when I grew up in that era, those games didn't have an update. However, let me not cover, it wasn't all roses, okay? There was times when you were jumping from platform to platform for some reason, a certain brick or ledge or this and that didn't catch your character. You fell right through into a pit of fire, or something happened where you threw something. It was supposed to, whatever, like I say, a holy water was supposed to kill Dracula. You throw it up there, boom. It didn't do anything, boom. You die. All of a sudden, you're starting all over. And when you started over again in those games, Jay, that was detrimental. It was worse than when your PS4 crashes. Those were the days where you wanted to, strangle somebody. My point being is I'm okay with the fact that you said, I'm getting these games and there's a day one update, and sometimes I'm playing a game that's, not entirely, but somewhat different than what you guys are getting when the consumer gets it. I'm okay with all of that because that's just the way we went. But where I'm not okay with a game coming out like this is when you see the promises and the fact that he said, like, wildlife, okay, the wildlife that you'll explore as you get deeper and deeper into the universe, they'll be more creative, more in this and that. No, they're not. They took pictures from Zoo Tycoon, and then they just mixed it into an algorithm. And then as you just walk in, as your plane enters, it does some sort of calculation. And they took a hippo and they put it on a giraffe's body. And that's not. I'm sorry, but that's not exactly what we thought when we were going to go explore. And that's where this has to end, because What is it we're getting when we're told something from now on? Like, there's a lot of games coming out, and I'm going to end the show tonight with asking you a few questions about what you're excited about coming up this fall, because I'd like to get your take on it. Like, what with these games coming out this fall? You just said it. Gears of War can't do this. Gears of War 4 has to be. You know how perfect that game has to be.
Oh yeah, like fuck.
Rod Ferguson hasn't slept since like January.
No, like. It's like the next Halo and the next Gears are so important to Microsoft that they need to be flawless.
Flawless.
And do you think so? Like, do you think Xbox is sitting back going like la la la, twiddling their thumbs? Fucking, they have everybody possible working on every aspect of marketing and everything.
Absolutely.
And they know how to listen. Microsoft knows how to roll out a game.
Yes, they do. Their Halo rollouts are still legendary. They're still classic. They've gone down in video game history.
Yeah, I'd put them up there with, Nintendo also knows how to roll out a game.
Yes, they do.
So, I mean, Sony has issues with rolling out games, and we've seen it numerous times. I mean,
they're good up to the rollout.
Well, they'll build hype, and then either it falls on its face or it's the most incredible thing you've ever seen. Right. So, it's never. I've never seen a Sony reveal where it was just like medium. It was always like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like the Final Fantasy VII remake. They see how they released the trailer for Final Fantasy VII, the remake, of course. And that's like almost the #1 reaction video in the world. People love that game. Can't wait for that game. Have we heard a peep about it? No. It's because they don't need to, because they've judged that correctly. They know they drop what they need to do. They could sit back. They know everybody who ever saw a fucking video on that's going to go buy that for their PlayStation. They're smart. They know what they're doing over there at Sony. However, when they go into an independent company like this and say, we want this, this, and this, something happened. There was some sort of breakdown there. It's not a first-party studio, so something has happened.
When you were playing the game, Jay, not to go back into detail here, but literally, there was a point in your review where you said there was an issue with the controls. It was when you were flying the ship, this and that. That type of bug work, those are not necessarily fixed in 7 business days. What were the issues that you were having when you were taking control of either the ship or maybe just on the ground? What did you notice were the mechanic control issues?
Well, mechanically, it controls very average. Let's just say that the ship doesn't control anything like I assumed it would.
Yeah. From
all of the trailers, of course, I was thinking something of like Wing Commander, like something of that caliber of control. However, it's like it's like the kid's toy version of that. It's just, you just push up, you go up, or you push left and you go left. There's no fine detail to it. There's no auto lock on some of the weapons, or there's none of that next level simulation there.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's missing. And here's another thing. All of the ships were supposed to, so let me go over the things that were supposed to be in the game and the things that, because we didn't do this yet.
Right.
Things that would have changed the game to make it feel amazing and make it way better than it was. So when you start the game out, you've got a crashed ship. Everybody starts out with the same ship, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I've seen everybody have that. Yeah, I think everybody has that same ship, not the planet, though. They have different planets, different atmospheres. What I noticed was I got my first ship. I got my second ship, and I went, well, it's bigger, it's different, the wingspan. And I remember hearing from him saying that the ships would feel different based on their size and their design. And guess what, guys? Every single ship in the game feels and controls exactly the same. Okay. That's a major disappointment right there. Like that's huge, guys. I can't downplay that. That's a major simulation thing that I'm looking forward to, right? So that's a huge disappointment. Then I get down to the plants. I start to see the animals. So I'm thinking, oh my God, this is pretty cool. And like I said, I gave it a 6.5. It's above average. It's not spectacular. Go up to an animal. What the fuck is this? This looks like a walking penis. Great. There's no collision detection on it, so I can walk through any of the animals. So even if they're massive, I walk through them. They don't, like, the AI on them is fucking horrendous. They're supposed to be like 7 stories tall. Never saw anything close to that. So then I'm like, okay, great. So the creatures are kind of pointless. The only reason the creatures are in the game right now is you feed them ore and they'll drop a very rare item, which guess what? That rare item, you won't have to use that for quite some time. So it's going to fill another spot in your inventory and just piss you off. So I'm like, okay, great. You could scan them as well. So here's another thing that I had with the game. When you scan all of those things,
Yeah.
like the planets, or not the planets, but everything that's on the planets and the creatures and all that, and you can name them and stuff. There's like upload and rename,
Okay.
or there's just upload. So when you find something, you scan it, it goes into a database on your system, and you go to the main menu, or so the menu screen, and you select rename and upload, or just upload, because it has a predetermined name. So if you're the type of player that wants to scan all these things, you have to go through a fucking list of 100 items at times to scan all these. There's no such thing as just upload all. So I'm like, oh my God, the whole thing about naming the planets and doing this is the user interface, by the way, is horrendous. Things are constantly in your way when you're trying to figure out how to craft something. The menu system will actually pop up in front of your inventory, which is not very smart.
That's what I was going to say. I saw overlapping to the point where it was distracting, and it also did they and tell us, Jay, did they rob a little bit? And I don't mean that in a bad way, because everybody tries to build off of another.
Oh yeah, it's Destiny.
It looked like Destiny, right? I was going to say it looks like Destiny.
Yeah. It's Destiny all the way. Now, let me just hurry up and get through everything here as quick as I can. So you start to see. So you remember him saying, like, okay, the space stations will be customizable, meaning that you'll be able to create your own, essentially. And then, of course, naming your ship. Can't do that. So I'm like, okay, great. I'm stuck with the name of the ship, and it's like some fucking ridiculous name. So I'm like, great. It takes you out of the game, to be honest. So you're like, I want to be the adventurer, and I can't even name my ship. Fine, I get it. So I go to a planet. I name it JKBville. Land on that planet. The animals on the planet are fucking pointless. I can't do much with them. I could kill them. It doesn't really hurt me if I do that. They can hurt me if I shoot them and they want to attack me. They can do that. Then on top of it, there's these sentinels. There's this whole like system within the game that's supposed to be protecting the planet of its minerals. So if you basically take too much of something, they'll come after you.
Okay.
First thing I noticed with this is it's like I hate saying this, but it's like 1988 pattern design. Like the AI is fucking horrendous, and it's very, very tricky to shoot at them sometimes. The weapon that you're given in the game is not the best. It's not the worst thing. It's very average. So I'm thinking now, okay, the combat on ground is just shooting these robots. And I could literally stand in the same spot, shoot 2 robots, wait 10 minutes, shoot 2 more, wait 10 minutes, shoot 2 more. That's the same pattern that would happen at any point, anywhere on the map. So I thought, okay, it's all pattern-based. Great. What happened to the whole, things will happen at random? So that didn't happen. So now I've come down to realize that the planet's quite boring because I can't build anything. I can't really do much except mine. I can't build onto the space stations or my own space stations for people to discover. So it's kind of, that's a disappointment.
Yep.
The ship feels like every other fucking ship. So why am I getting them? Okay, I want more space. That's it. That literally is the only reason to get a different ship. So now I'm thinking like, oh my God, this is bad. Like what happened? So I'm like, okay. I know what's going to save this, guys. I'm going to go into space and have an amazing space battle. It's going to bring me right back to Rogue Squadron on the GameCube.
Yep. Guess
what happens? I go into space. It's the most ridiculous, boring space combat I've ever experienced. I'm thinking, what the hell happened to this game?
What did you say in your review when you were discussing the space combat? Do you remember what you said? You gave an analogy. You got me laughing. Go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry. It was so funny.
No, I don't even remember what that was, but
it was great.
It just. So at that point in time, I'm like, the core aspects of the game are missing. Like the combat's gone. The creatures are boring and they don't look how they were supposed to look. And you can walk right through them, which means you're being taken out of that feeling. The only thing that the game really nailed down for me, it's amazing to get in your ship, take off, go into the atmosphere. Fucking incredible. So I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I can really just get in a ship and go into the next planet. So I do that. And I use my hyperdrive, and I'm thinking, oh, for review purposes, I'm going to crash into the planet at full speed.
Yep.
Guess what happens?
You can't.
You can't fucking crash your ship in a simulation game.
You can't crash it.
You can only crash into the asteroids. So I'm thinking, why can't I crash onto the planet? That would be so cool.
Yes.
Then I'd have to go back down on the planet and retrieve my shit from my ship. At that point in time, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, I can't. It's autopilot when you get into the atmosphere. I thought, what is happening here? So then I'm like, the only saving grace now is going to be the alien races, and like, if they come shooting at me or whatever's going to happen, like they're going to track me down and follow me to the planet. Never happened. Okay, great. So that doesn't happen in the game. The freighters that show up, they come out of hyperspace. They crash right in front of you. Not crash, but they stop.
They stop
on a dime, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh, this is fucking cool. So I go shoot one. I'm dead within 2 seconds. Great. I understand that the game is designed to be difficult and you're supposed to level up your shields and whatnot. So I'm thinking, okay, great. I get it. It's space combat. It's going to get better. It never got any better. It was the same shit over and over and over. You blow up a ship. You don't really get any major reward. You don't get, you know what I mean? Like, you don't get the sense of like, wow, I just did something spectacular in this game that's difficult to do. It was just like a 1988 arcade game. Like when it's like when Pac-Man eats the ghost. You're like, okay, I get it. Eat that chair or eat that big pill in the far right and then eat the ghost. It's the same thing I got. It's the same vibe I got from the game.
Jay, in your video review, okay, and I have this in quotations because I quoted you when you said it. It was great. This is when you were kind of, and I like how you talk to the audience, and you really, we could see the frustration. You're like, I don't know how to rate this. And your quote was that I wrote down was, you're like, there's not much to do. And that's what you said. And I was like, this is, I mean, because that's where I wrote, when you said that, I wrote some notes down. And that's when I tweeted you. Remember when you put a simple tweet out? You said, No Man's Sky, 6.5 out of 10. And you just tweeted it out the other night. And I wrote, I think that was you being generous, but fair review. Yeah. And so I guess going back to it and looking at the 6.5 again, and before we get into that, no, I don't even want to get into the number yet. If there's not much to do, we have all these issues. Why do I or anyone want to play the game? Why would I tonight want to go pick up that game?
I'm going to tell you why. Let's just pretend you're with your family. Let's just pretend you're a family man. You got kids, your wife, everybody.
Right.
Your wife goes, I got this brilliant idea, honey. Let's go to Disney World. We'll bring the kids for the first time. We'll have they'll meet Mickey Mouse. They'll get to see the castle in real life. Mm-hmm. They'll get to see all the Star Wars shit. They'll go on the Star Wars rides. They get to see all the Marvel stuff. It'll be spectacular. Mm-hmm. And you go to your wife, that sounds fucking amazing. Let's do it, honey. This is what No Man's Sky is. You show up to the gates of Disney World, and there's a dude at the gate that goes, hey, I got bad news. And what's that bad news? Well, the castle, it's closed today. And the Star Wars attractions your kid wants to go on, yeah, you can walk by them, but they're closed.
It's Wally World.
Yeah, it's closed. Sorry about that. And the food that we were going to, have the restaurants open. Unfortunately, we're not selling steak. We're selling hot dogs today. And you know what I mean? We hear what I'm getting at here.
Yes.
That's why people want to play the game, because of this. You get to go into the park. You get to go into Disneyland. You see the castle. You see the Star Wars rides. You know what it's like. You know it's going to be fucking spectacular to go on that ride. You know it's going to be amazing to see your daughter go into that fucking Princess Disney store and pick out her dress.
Right.
You know what I mean? These are life experiences that you're going to never forget. However, there's a gate between you and those experiences.
I was just going to say, it sounds like basically
that's
the best
what No
part
Man's
of going to get this game is getting in the car and the excitement before I get to the GameStop store.
Well, that is part of it. So the main experience, well, this is the bottom line. No Man's Sky is like going to Disney World with nothing open. But you get to go into the park, and maybe eventually for free, those things might open. But you've paid the ticket, so you don't know, because the people that are running the park, they haven't told you yet.
Right.
They haven't said, oh, that's opening at that time. So No Man's Sky is amazing because you get to go in and look at these things, but there's nothing fucking to do. So you're waiting for the gates to open on the castle, and that could mean space combat's going to be better. It's going to be more in depth. You're going to have better collision detection on the fucking meteorites. You're going to be able to, have your own space station in space floating around and walk around in it. Well, you hear what I'm saying? It's like you've actually
you've given us a perfect picture painted. I'll tell you that much. Now, you have mentioned in this interview here that if all these certain things come around in a full circle, and Sony and Hello Games are able to collaborate and get something together, you said the number could go up. Let me ask you this: could the number go down if they just keep it like this? Because I think part of that 6.5 was you saying, just like you would say to any employee or something, I'm going to give you this bonus with me knowing that you're promising me that there's more to come. Because the 6.5, from what, and this is, and I'm not being the mooch that everyone knows on Twitter. I'm just telling you from this interview and learning, and I know you enough now how much of this comes from your heart. I thought the 6.5 was a bit generous. I thought this was a 5.5. Now you're probably saying, come on, Mooch, you're splitting hairs with me. I'm really not. A 5.5 to me means the game is not utterly broken at all. I think that's 4 and down. I don't think it's utterly broken at all. I just think at 5.5, it's just missing some of the core things.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
The reason it didn't get a 5 out of me, like just an average game, and it could go up in the future with the updates, is because when I first turned on the game and was stuck on that first planet, I experienced something there that I've never experienced in any game, and that was worth 1.5 to me. Like I had the feeling of being lost on a planet, and that's at the time when I didn't realize there was nothing to do in this game.
Understood.
So that little experience is to me was enough to say, like, listen, it's not a 5, it's a 6.5, because I had that little experience there, which does tend to happen throughout the game. There are times when, you know, you come out of hyperspace and ships crash into you, and it's craziness and it's fun. But I mean, it's not what we were promised, so it has to come back down. I mean, if this game launched and I could create space stations, I could name my ship, and I could build a colony on the planet, essentially, and I could go into space and have my own freighters where I could store stuff in a galaxy, but also be able to jump back to that galaxy at any point in time to be able to pick up my supplies. If I could customize and build my own ships, dude, if they just introduced my ability, or the ability to customize a ship in this game, for instance, let's think out of the box really quickly here. If they wanted to go nuts, they would just get the PlayStation Eye, and they go to the team behind Little Big Planet, and they'd say, listen, we want to just steal some of your tech. We want to be able to take photos and put them into the game. Can you imagine you could design ships based on just simple drawings you've put like on paper, like just simple shapes and stuff like you could do with Little Big Planet? Or you could put what were they called in there? Stamps. Like you could take a photo of something and then stamp it onto a texture or whatnot.
Yeah.
There's all these things.
But what about a game like Elite Dangerous? Has Elite Dangerous done these things that you want and it already exists? Does this game already exist in that title?
Well, it doesn't. It has Elite Dangerous is more of a space simulation fighter game. You can go down to planets and stuff that I've seen. However, I'm not going to speak too much on it because I haven't even played the game. However, the reason I looked into the game was because people were like, hey, just go play Elite Dangerous. It's fucking way better than what you're playing. Now I looked into the game, and it's not the same idea. The idea behind No Man's Sky is this. You know, I always bring up ET when I talked about VR. I brought up ET because people could relate to the feeling they had, that magic. Yes. You know what No Man's Sky was supposed to be? No Man's Sky was supposed to be Elliot at the end of ET, the film, going with ET and seeing what was on the next planet.
Correct.
That's what No Man's Sky was supposed to be. So if you can imagine that in your own head for a second, what would it be like to go with ET and go to these other planets, his planet, just his, but now not just his. We're talking about trillions of them. That's what the game was supposed to be about, that sense of adventure. You're going into a ship that's going to take you to a different experience every time, but that's not what we got. And on the way, you're supposed to have pirates that are going to steal your stuff. We didn't really get that. Hear what I'm saying? That's missing that stuff. And it's, again...
Do you feel cheated? Jay, did you feel cheated at the end of your 50 hours?
Of course. Well, here's the thing about me. Like Diablo 3, I've dropped more hours than I want to even say online. I played that game over and over and over, same levels over and over and over and over and over and over. Why do I do that? It's repetitive. There's something about just killing the enemies and collecting the loot. I'm the type of person that can just get away with doing that. It's same as like... Every once in a while, I have to turn on GoldenEye on my N64 and just shoot a bunch of, people in the face.
Yes.
Because it's something about, to me, I think gaming is about the experience you're having, but also the past experiences you've had with games.
Yes.
And when I'm playing a game like No Man's Sky, I'm thinking about other games when I'm playing it. I'm like, okay, this is like when I'm reviewing it, I'm thinking, okay, this is like Wing Commander to a very small degree. I get it. I'm in a ship and it's supposed to be like this, but it's all of a sudden it's like, okay, it's nothing like that. So then you realize, okay, then the game, if he's delivering this to us, then this means it's not supposed to be like that, even though that's what he promised it would be like. I have to look at the game differently now based on what he's handed over to me.
Agreed.
So, was I disappointed? Yes, because he's promising this, this, and this with this sense of adventure. The only thing that No Man's Sky nailed down was the scope. Obviously, it's massive. It does feel massive. However, it does feel repetitive. So once you see a couple of planets and you go through the different galaxies, there was at one point where I just flew for an hour and a half in one direction, just full speed, doing nothing but just flying full speed. And I thought, okay, what am I going to run into here?
Right.
And guess what? Nothing. I just turned around and saw the planets were smaller behind me.
I'm shocked you actually had that much. One of the complaints I keep hearing over and over again is there's not enough fuel. I guess maybe that must have been later on in your adventures then, right?
Well, I never ran into any issues with resources.
Okay.
I think very early in the game, obviously that's part of the game to realize like, okay, shit, you got to be on top of these things. But I found a planet that gave me gold, also gave me these sort of like old relics that I could sell for about 60,000 units, which in terms of the game, let's just say about 50 hours in, decent sized ship is about maybe 3 million units. Mm-hmm. So it took me about 2.5 hours, 3 hours to collecting and selling to the online store that's in the game to get one of the basically mid-sized ships. Okay. You can basically hold, I say basically a lot, fuck. You can hold around, I think it's 45 slots of inventory.
Initially,
on the biggest ship.
Okay.
And then your suit will do the same. I believe it's 45, unless I'm mistaken. And then your gun, that's different. That's just for upgrades. So
what happens when you venture out, Jay, and your 45 slots are full on your person, and then you're like, I have to bring this back to the ship to unload? Is there a fast travel, or you have to actually, if you hiked for 2 hours, you have to hike back for 2 hours?
No, this is the one thing they never explained to you as well. I played the first 10 hours in and realized like, okay, I got to go walk back to my ship. But this is why the game, I give it a little bit of a score, is because it doesn't explain it to you that you can just go up to a beacon and actually summon your ship to that beacon.
Okay, good. I was hoping there was something.
No, of course you can summon your ship. So if you're halfway across the, like at one point I walked for about 3 hours in one direction, just surviving, going to stations and going and going and going. And I just called my ship and it showed up in 10 seconds.
Okay. Okay, well, that's good. I mean,
so
one of the biggest beefs I hear from people, and these are folks that I know haven't played it for 50 hours. They played it for in the teens. They said that one of their issues was inventory control, and then always having to hike back to their ship, which apparently,
that you can send things to your ship. You can't take things out of your ship if you're out of distance, like out of the radius of the ship. You have to be pretty close to it to be able to take things out, but you can always send things in, which I think is pretty cool in the game. However, I have to say, the inventory system in this game is the most frustrating fucking part of it. I just ran into issues of like, I've got too much of this shit, but it's valuable. I want to go sell it. Now I got to walk over there. They should have just, it's just this. The reason why I think it's messed up and there's a frustration there is because you were supposed to be able to use some of this stuff that you have to build a space station.
Right.
On that planet, right?
Correct.
I feel like there's just complete chunks of the resources completely missing.
Yep.
Like just completely gone.
That would make sense. I mean, if you're saying that all of this was, and I mean, this is all, I mean, you said early on the show, you said this is your thought. This is your own personal interpretation of what was supposed to be. There's definitely things that have been taken out of the game. There's things missing.
Well, yeah, there's like 70%, like I said earlier. Can't name ships. There's so much he talked about. The day and night cycle is not as cool as he explained it. He explained it as the planet would have a dark side. So like dark side of the moon, if you go into that dark side, the temperature is changing and all that shit. You could land into the dark zone or you could land into the zone with the light, right?
Well, the problem also was that you said, I believe, I believe you mentioned, or maybe we were talking offline, you said that the survival element of whether it was too hot or too cold is exactly the same. There's no difference there.
Well, I don't think that was me that mentioned anything about that. But in terms of the heat and the cold and the radiation, not once did I die from being cold.
Okay, maybe that's
you know what I'm saying.
Like
Like
I interpreted it wrong.
No, it's like by the time you realize what the game is, you never will. Even if you have a shitty exosuit, you'll never die of being cold unless you're being dumb, like walking into the middle of a map and just standing there for 30 seconds. You'll die. You have to be smart in the game. So that's the survival aspect of it, but it's not survival in the sense of it being fun. It's not like Minecraft survival. I wouldn't even say Minecraft's a survival game as much as it is a creation game.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I'm talking about those survival games, those hardcore ones like The Long Dark. You have to be smart in those games. And this one, it's kind of, you can, basically somebody already somehow figured out how to level up their ship completely and get everything they needed on one planet. They never even left the first planet, which says a lot.
Well, what would you say, Jay, in ending some of this here, would you say that you, at this point in time, well, actually, wait, before I ask the final question, have you gone back and played more?
After the review, absolutely not.
And that's somewhat troubling, isn't it, for people to hear? So, because I think that you were, even with your score being a 6.5, you were quite positive in the fact that you were uplifting and showing the benefits to this game. The fact that you haven't gone back and you haven't felt enthralled to pick up the controller, I personally can't say I blame you.
See, I'll tell you what, when they open the park, when they open Disneyland, I'll go get the game again.
Okay, that's fair enough. Would you change your number?
If I go into Disneyland and it's fucking and the Star Wars ride is as good as my friend is saying,
yes,
I'll definitely have to rescore the game.
Okay.
But at this point in time, well, I'm going into Disneyland and looking at trash bins, and like those are my rides. Like it's fucking like I'm eating hot dogs instead of steak.
I've got two questions here, Jay, from the audience, and I want to ask you. First question is from Predator, good friend of mine. Know him, been on podcasts with him. Predator asks you, what would the Xbox One version, if and when it was to come out, have to make it more successful? Because let's be honest, if they just take the disc and they just duplicate it and then hand it to us in a green package, we know it's not going to do well as it stands because the reviews are out, people are talking. What would have to be done? And I'm not talking like the Disney World being open and the rides all full. What would be the minimum that would have to be done on the Xbox One version to get some more people to come and buy this when it comes out? What's the minimal amount needed to be done to get this purchased?
I think at this point in time, the space combat needs to be fixed.
Okay.
I think that's one of the main. I mean, you're in space a lot of the time, and I also think that the biggest other things are creating a space base, like a base on the planet, and online multiplayer. Okay. If it comes out and has multiplayer on Xbox One at the same time as, of course, PS4 and PC, it'll sell so much more just on that one thing. So I'm going to say multiplayer. If Mooch and I could go onto a planet,
yes, and
play together, it turns it into a different experience because it's not me alone just talking to myself. Now I'm talking with Mooch. It's kind of like the Division. You know how we used to walk around the streets?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And just talk to your buddy. Well, and you shoot the random guy, but you'd still play it and have a decent amount of time. It's that.
I'm also hearing a word in my head. I'm hearing a sound. It's crossplay. Wouldn't crossplay when it comes to Xbox One also be great? Because then we're upping some of our chances to maybe see you, because that number is, but maybe I would see more planets named or minerals named after or species.
Good luck.
Right. Exactly. Right. I was wondering if you were going to just shoot that down or not. I got another question for you, Jay. It's leaving off the No Man's Sky, but Titanfall Princess is in the chat. It's been great today.
I wonder what game she loves.
Right. Naturally. Right. Yep. It's all in the name. She wonders, she says, Jay, how many games do you own or have in your possession? Have you ever counted the amount of games you have?
Are we talking physical or digital?
I think I will speak for her unless she changes it. I would say both. Like,
physically, I have 4 games.
No way. No, you have
surprise.
You have
I have 4 games.
Don't you have like 5,000 cartridges?
No, that's not that.
Well, I know that
of me
photo's
is,
not you, but I mean, I thought you. I picture you because you know what it is, Jay. I followed your work, but I remember we had this conversation offline a while ago. I said to you, "Is that your store you opened?" And you're like, "No, that's a friend of mine's store." But I mean,
no, that was
that was it.
Let me explain what it
Please.
feels like to have a review show.
Yes.
Any review copies I get to keep. Obviously, I keep those because I can't fucking turn it into physical release. So my PSN and my Xbox accounts are probably worth thousands of dollars because I have every single game for the last God knows how long on both of them. Xbox will send me minimum 3 weeks before the release every single first party game. So that means Gears, Forza, all that, I will own that eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's happening in the gaming industry is a lot of people are getting codes now. And the reason for that is because they'll take the physical copies and they'll just sell them.
I see. Okay.
So that's changed the way that you get review copies. So you get them as digital codes, and obviously they're tied to your account. I think I mentioned this to you.
You did. You did.
Yeah, I mentioned that to you. Like if so if I get a review code for such and such game, I won't mention it, and I want to play with Mooch because he's going to be part of the review. He's going to have to enter 2 codes. I'm going to have to enter 2 codes, and those are unlock codes. But after that's all said and done, we get to keep the games. Of course, like Microsoft doesn't come in and shut off my Halo 5 after I'm done reviewing it.
Right.
Same as PlayStation doesn't come in and turn off my Ratchet and Clank. Those are just copies of the game. Now, physical copies, I'll get those, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, when you're reviewing like I do, and I take breaks here and there, blah blah blah. Long story short, I'll just be honest. I sell those all off because I can't physically keep them because I can't afford to do that.
Right.
So because I'm a reviewer, I get new games constantly. I'm not able to really sit back and go through a game 100%, right? I don't have much downtime, so I don't keep any of that. I take that, and what I do then with my partnership at ANC Games is they'll take the game off my hands, and I use the money to purchase the next game that I'm not getting for review.
Understood. Now, where do you stand on the indies, Jay? Do you get any indies thrown your way? And they're actually asking you, Jay, will you review this game?
Which game?
Well, I mean, you want me to pick one on a thin air? I'll say Hyper Light Drifter or something like that.
Oh, well, basically, I get offered every single indie game.
Right, that's what I would imagine.
All of them. I just don't have what's the word here? PC. Well, first of all, I don't have a PC. Second of all, I don't really like to do a lot of them.
Well, no, let's be honest. You just said it yourself, a review channel. And what do review channels actually get? You want to get people's interest. Of course, they would rather see you playing the AAA game.
Well,
I mean, that's just
let me be honest.
Spade.
I have to be careful because some indie developers will send me the game and talk it up and all this stuff.
Right.
Simply for me just to give them publicity. So I have to be aware of like what I'm talking about sometimes because I'm a pretty small channel compared to some out there. And when I say something's good, some people are going to go out there and actually just buy it based on me saying it's good. So I can't just go and review everything that's sent to me because I just don't have time to do that. I'd like to be able to say to this indie dev, hey, I played your fucking game. It's amazing. I don't have time. Like I'd feel like shit. So I don't take them. You know what I'm saying? Like I just don't take these games. I could essentially have every indie game that's ever released for free, but I can't promise them I'll be able to review them. So I'm not that type of person to just collect those games.
How about I want to ask Jay a question and not JKB. Jay, what game this holiday, and it doesn't matter. I don't care if it's Sony, Microsoft. I don't give a shit if it's in a third party, small game. What game, when you get like a holiday week off and you come down, you eat breakfast, you're in your pajamas, you're like, I'm just going to end up playing a game. I can't wait to get into this game this holiday, starting basically from now all the way till, let's say, December 31st. And that's quite an arraignment of games coming out. Which game are you looking forward to the most to really sink your teeth in and enjoy, not as a reviewer, but as just as a gamer and enjoy yourself?
Oh, man. I think I have 2.
That's fine.
Deus Ex Part 2, obviously, Mankind Divided. I'm a huge fan of that franchise, so that's number 1. Mm-hmm. And Horizon 3, I don't think a lot of people know this, but I'm a huge fan of racing games, so that game is like right at the top of the list as well. I can't wait for it.
Now, what part of Horizon 3 are you looking forward to the most? Because I mean, like I said, you've gotten me so into that game. I played Horizon 2 based off of, like I said, I'm not going to go down that alley again, but you and Kat, what is it you're looking for the most necessarily in 3? Or maybe it's nothing specific, it's just the game itself. Which part of the game?
Yeah, that's a good question, because those games are usually the same thing and they just change the atmosphere up. However, there's like the Horizon event, like the actual Horizon World Tour event that takes place in the game.
Okay.
It's what's really good about that company is they understand that car culture. They understand electronic music. They understand the sense of speed. Women, I know that sounds silly, but they use that in the game to heighten the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because when you pop that game in, it plays a movie at the beginning, and there's like obviously there's gorgeous women in cars, and there's very crazy shots of it going through fields, and I'm going back to what it means to play video games, and I escape by playing a video game.
Yes.
And Horizon takes me not just into a car game, but an experience. Yes, I can race a car around, but if I just wanted to do that, I'd play the actual main Forza. But I want to experience that emotion of like having those women, those beautiful women part of it, and talking about the cars, and then going out onto the tracks, and also the fact that it's a massive online game is spectacular. To be able to run into your drive-atar and challenge you on the spot. I know that it's not you essentially, but that's something that I haven't done in another game really, and I love that.
That has totally changed the racing dynamic, hasn't it, Jay?
It's fucking great, man. To be able to go back into Horizon 2 and just see like Mooch is driving around. I'm like, Mooch is online? Oh no, wait a minute, that isn't Mooch. That's his drive-atar, which is going to affect his game as well if I race it, right?
Yes.
And then he's going to be notified like, hey, your rival JKB just kicked your ass.
Yes.
You might want to get in this. And it's
when sometimes I would just place in second and I see that your car is the one that beat me, I'm like, the hell that's happening. You know what I mean? And it's not even you, but but here's the thing. I know that the next time you play the game, I know my name will come up one step ahead of yours and you'll be like, that son of a bitch. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
That's what I just can't get over how amazing that is. You've taken someone like me that's not in the racing genre fanboy group, and I've just slowly crept into it because of the drive-atar.
You got to admit that it's a lot of fun to be able to rival somebody who's actually not online at that time. And then I could tweet to Mooch like, hey, I just kicked your ass. You better get in there. And then you could actually come online and you and I could just drive our cars around the whole map.
Yes.
Like, it's just like, okay, you want to do this race? Yes. Boom. Mooch and I are in a race. It's like
even better set up the races now, Jay. Now, before we could do races, I did a few online with friends, but it was a little bit harder to do into. I heard in this one, it's like if there's 4 of us, Jay, we just set it up. We're like, oh, we're gonna do that race right there, the 4 of us, and it's just like go. That's what I can't wait to do, like the instantaneous race with you guys. You know, like it's gonna be mind blowing. I'm very excited for this.
Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Gears, so I mean. So you play the beta and you look at it and you go, okay, it doesn't look spectacular. It feels like Gears though.
Right.
It doesn't feel too light. That's what a lot of people were going to be kind of looking at. It feels like heavy Gears, same strategy involved, like stop and go.
Yes.
Combat, which is what it's known for in up close combat. It nails all of that stuff, but I haven't seen, like I physically haven't played it yet.
Right.
Past the beta. So that's one thing I'm like, okay, I want to know what the story is, right?
Yes.
Because the story is like a huge driving part of this game because they're launching a new trilogy. So
absolutely.
The fact that Marcus is in it, boom, I'm sold. Show me what you got. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, they know what they're doing. They didn't show him until after in that trailer. And then all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, here we go.
Yeah, because that really pays tribute to Rod and his group. And you said this earlier. You said they really know how to release a Gears game. This Gears, by showing Marcus and this and that, introducing the new character, which is the son, which when you can't have your favorite, all the greatest movies, well, I shouldn't say this. I mean, all of them, because you're a movie buff. But I mean, like a lot of the good movies, when the son takes over, there is still a feeling that tradition, all that emotion you have with the Phoenix family is carried through now into the son, and the fact that the dad's there is huge. And I also want to say, and you know this already, Jay, I'm just telling the audience, your initial remark was true and accurate based upon the beta, But even somebody who was critical, Destin Liguri on IGN, who was critical of it, actually, he tweeted out a picture of him eating crow, and he sent it to Rod Ferguson, being like, I bow down to you. I'm sorry I said that this game was I was concerned it was going to look awful. It was only pre-alpha.
Yeah, you know what's funny about that? You got game journalism guys coming out of the woodwork saying like, "Oh, the beta looks like it's because it's a fucking beta. How do we know what the final game?" Exactly. I just saw some 4K footage of Gears 4.
Yeah,
did you see that?
Yes, it's mind blowing.
Oh my god! Like, are we kidding me? So it's
absolutely
like, just shut up before you. That's what I have a huge. I just want to bring this up really quick. I have such a huge problem with people trying to get attention whores. Essentially,
the clicks.
It's in this community. I'm not just saying your Xbox community that you've built up here, because I'm on the outside of it. I don't come in here and be like, oh, Sony's the best or Xbox is the best. I just love games, and that's why I love coming on your show. And I don't come on here and poke fun at more of the I don't know what you would call them, the Xbox fanboys that are following me because I've been on your show.
Yes.
I don't care that they don't like PlayStation. I just wanted to say this on live that look, you may love Xbox, which is awesome. That's awesome, because Xbox right now I would say is more of a game company than Sony is.
Agreed.
And when you look at Xbox, you see them going in a direction, and then it feels like Sony's almost, I'm not going to say completely following the direction of Xbox, but I think that Sony's on a different path, but they're very close.
Yes.
Now, what I'm just pointing out is some people today, I said, be careful what you say about No Man's Sky, because in a year you're going to be playing it on your Xbox One and praising it. And some people are like, it was Crap Gamer who was like, I'll never have that fucking game in my Xbox.
Yeah, Crap's he's not a fan of it.
No, it's fine. That's fine.
Right.
But I'm not dissing him here. That's fine. But
right,
it's the same thing as the VR. I have to say it publicly. Until you play it, you don't know what you're really saying until those experiences. And now, if those experiences are not what you're looking for, then by all means say things like that.
Right.
The Xbox side, you are missing out on things that are on the PlayStation side. For instance, Uncharted series is spectacular.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to deny that.
No,
The Last of Us is one of the best games ever made.
I have it on PS3 and PS4. I agree.
So there you go. You even own the system. So I'm saying, what I just wanted to say live right now is gaming isn't about like this or that or it's fun to have the console wars, but at the end of the day, I always go back to the experiences you're going to have and the memories you're going to have, because those memories are worth more than the console war.
Agreed. And that's what I love about having you on the show, Jay, is I said this to a lot of the people that do follow me. One of the reasons I'm a fan of yours is you bring gaming back to that fun, and I mean this as a compliment, and I think you'll take it as one. You bring me back to the youth. You bring me back to my younger train of thought.
Like I know what you're saying, like the childish, passionate, like let's play this game on the couch and have fun.
Absolutely, because that's, to be honest with you, that's how I grew up playing. That's how you grew up playing. It was like I had to actually go over, ring your doorbell, say, Jay, what are you doing? I've got 2 hours. Come on over. And then we played a 2-player game, and I didn't have to ask you. I could actually watch and see if you enjoyed it or you didn't, or what you got into and what you didn't. And that's not there right now. Yes, we have the convenience that I can play and you're in Toronto, but
the secret, though, there's a big secret here, is that those experiences we had as kids, yes, it's different now. It's online and that whatnot, but nothing has really changed. Everything has changed, but nothing has changed.
True.
You hear what I'm saying? Like, people are creating false walls in terms of like, oh, I love this because it has this on this. That's ridiculous. To limit yourself to one side or another is totally up to you.
That's right. I
just feel that if there's amazing experiences out there, it's best in life to make those memories, because you might regret them when you get older. Now, I'm not saying it's, I think that it's a lot of fun to troll people.
Yes.
I love trolling. Like, I could sit here and troll you about Halo 5 right now. All the Xbox fanboys listening right now, I could just talk about the fucking Warden over and over. Like, why don't you guys go face off against the Warden again? Oh, you haven't had enough? Here's the Warden again. Here he is again as a mid-boss, and here he is as the final boss.
The Warden is nonstop.
The fucking warden. Go shove the warden up your ass. You know, I could sit here and make fun of the warden and that fucking lock and whatnot, but it's fun to do that. But I think at its core, gaming is really about the memories that you're going to create with somebody else.
It really is. It really is.
You have them, you know, that's what I tried to do with the No Man's Sky review is say, listen, you're going to make these, you're going to have these moments that are going to be memories and you're not going to have them in any other game. And that's something that Sean Murray did create. So I had to give him credit on that.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, if I go to Forza, this is it. Okay, I just want to say this really quickly. If you take Forza versus GT,
yes,
GT right now, you're going to have to go look for the Loch Ness Monster first because you might find that first before you find the next GT game.
It's not coming.
But there's clear differences in passion between the teams. You hear what I'm saying here? Like, there's passion in the GT team. But you play a Forza game, and the passion is not just put into the mechanics of the car. It's to like the user interface, the online modes,
the sounds,
the details, the sounds, everything is spectacular.
It is.
So when you get to that level, I can see why it's easy for somebody to become a fanboy because you're experiencing fucking gold.
Right.
Now you go over to something else and it might be a bit less, but that doesn't mean that somebody else is not having the same memory you had with that.
You know, the thing is, and I'll tell you this much, Jay, there's a couple of different other little small camps in the whole. First of all, from the beginning of time, whether we're talking Coleco, Atari, Nintendo, Genesis, the console wars, and I've said this to some of the Microsoft executives because I talked to them. I said, guys, the console war is never going away. And I know you have to do whatever you have to do to be politically correct and PR and stuff, but it's never going away. And we can all start singing Kumbaya and light candles before every podcast. But the point of the matter is there's always a preference. But right. But the other point that I'd like to bring up to the audience and to you too, Jay, is that a lot of people said this. You know, I chose the Xbox camp because of basically I like their online system. I prefer their controller. I like their exclusives. Some people like their exclusives way better. Some like them slightly better. And they feel that like Sony right now is a multiplayer, God, now I'm drawing a blank on it now. But like a third-party distributor game system only. Because let's be honest, the order wasn't great. The Bloodborne series I won't count because it's basically Dark Souls 2.5. That's fine. It already has an audience. That's fine. They found their little niche. I don't know how they manipulated that with what is it, Bandai Namco? I don't know how they did that.
No, I get where you're going, but I got to ask you this.
Go ahead.
Are you happy with the size of your show? Like the amount of people watching?
Well, I mean, everybody would like more people to watch the show, but that's not. But I have to be myself. People tune in because Jay. The reason that I think that you latched on and said I like, Mooch is because I basically am myself. There's no way I'm going to say something to you on this show and then we're going to hang up and I'm going to go, oh no, complete opposite.
No, totally, I get that. But in terms of me coming on the show, why do I feel like it's an Xbox show? Well, where does that come into play? Because I notice the fan base is all Xbox people.
Except for the haters and trolls, but yes.
Except for the haters and trolls, of course.
Except for those guys. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's because I came out and I was just I wanted to voice my opinion on how I was just not happy with how the media, it wasn't at Sony in the get-go. I was a little bit more upset with the media and how the media pushed the Sony product early on. And now it's starting to shift a little bit because you could see, you said it yourself, between the Xbox One S and then Scorpio coming next year, the momentum is starting to completely start to shift over. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. But for the first 3 years, they were spoon-feeding us PS4. And it was like, why are you doing that? Let us decide. We're the consumer. Let us decide which system is better because it's not just about the 180Ps that were different.
That was just simple marketing on Sony's side of things.
Yeah, but the media ran with it.
Well, remember when I told you when I request a video game from a company, it would show up and it'd be a PlayStation game.
Yes.
Why? Why was it an Xbox game?
Well, I want to hear your answer first. I'll give you mine second.
Well, I know why, because Sony paid.
Okay.
Now, I got to bring up something as well. That whole fucking 900 versus 1080p.
Yes.
Fiasco, because resolutions between 720 and 1080, me personally, I don't give a flying fuck.
Right.
Now, in saying that, though, when I'm Ubisoft and I sit back and I make a fucking massive game,
Yeah.
of course I'm going to put it on the system that has more resolution, or we figured it out, or whatever the hell it may be, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But as a reviewer, game and be like, this is kind of weird that I didn't, I requested Xbox One for this or whatever, and I get it on PlayStation 4, and it's shoved down your throat. Let's be honest.
Right.
So I mean, somebody somewhere, is it the Ubisoft people because they think it's running better on that? Is it Sony paying for that to happen?
Well, can I answer a question with a question, Jay? And I really want you to answer it. How come? And I didn't play nearly as much as you did, but I played a lot of Diablo. Okay, I played a lot of Diablo 3 on Xbox One. Yeah. Destiny's not exactly what we'd call a small game. Okay. Why is it some companies and developers can get the 1080p juice out of the Xbox One, but others can't? I tend to think that sometimes, and I've let go of this one for a while, but I thought there's a lot of lazy developers out there.
I mean, you know what it is? It's just numbers. If something is sold more than something else, then focus goes on the more units sold. So if Sony is a number one, this means that the development needs more time on that because it's going to sell more copies, and then we'll slowly fix this as we go through. It's the same thing as I always come on your show and talk about the other aspects of gaming that nobody talks about, which is marketing and sales figures and how that comes into play and what it means if Sony is exclusive holder of, No Man's Sky. What does it actually mean? People don't
mean? Exactly.
Yeah, people don't realize that means that Hello Games is either took a deal for a big chunk of money up front or a very small chunk of money up front and now owes them out of the sales. It's simple as that's how it works. And people don't realize that marketing costs sometimes as much as the game costs, even more. If you look at any of those Marvel movies that cost $100 million, take a wild guess how much they spend in marketing. Just take a guess. If the movie cost $100 million, the marketing cost $100 million.
Is it really one for one?
Yeah, basically on all of those Marvel movies, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, in terms of when the games are like actually being made, we don't know how much No Man's Sky cost. But I can tell you that the marketing put into it isn't free. Like, people forget that Sony somehow pulled that out their ass. No. They're paying to have it on the internet. Every time I run a video, I see No Man's Sky before that ad. Why is that there? Because Sony has bought that space. That costs money.
Yeah.
So people, I just wanted to bring that up because people don't think about those.
Do you think
deals.
This is all? But it's keeping in the marketing and all this and that. Jay, do you see a shift happening that we're going to shift back to Xbox being the primary focus, with Scorpio coming out being, quote unquote, using Microsoft's words, the most powerful console? Is that going to, or no, you think it's just going to status quo? We're just going to stay and be relative the way we are?
Well, if you want to talk about the console war quickly and which side I would think what's going to win essentially.
Yeah, your projection for the next, I want to say 18 to 24 months, because saying who's going to win next month is irrelevant. Who cares?
Well, to be honest, it's impossible to say who's going to win at this time. You could say, Sony's already ahead, so they're going to win based on that. They already have a user base, but last I checked, both of these systems cost a lot of money.
Yes.
And it's really going to come down to, for the first time in generations, because it's been a while since a game actually pushed something.
Yes.
It's going to be difficult to say which side's going to actually really take the lead on the Neo and the Scorpio, because the Scorpio is going to come out and be the most powerful thing. And I sure as shit believe Sony is not going to just roll over and release something that's a little bit less. It's going to actually come down to marketing. And it's going to come down to who is there for the gamer at the end of the day.
Right.
I don't care about the systems, because listen to this. PC, it fucking overshadows everything.
Right.
If I want the best gaming experience, I'll go buy a PC right fucking now and have something amazing.
Right.
That's not what gaming is about. To me, gaming is about the community and also about the company. If they're going to be on the level of the gamer,
yes,
they need to project that. And Sony is when I think of Sony now, I think of a very cold monolith. Like I don't, like, there's no real, I get that. Yes. Okay. Yes. They're here for the gamer, power to the gamers, all that shit. But that's just simple. I look past that stuff because I've studied marketing. It's not like you can go into the Sony office and go, hey, dude, can you tell me about this game? Like half the people there probably haven't played video games.
That's right.
If I go up to Phil, Phil, how do you feel about that game? Phil's probably fucking been to the office and told him to fix something. You know what I mean? He's
very
played the game.
hands-on. Very hands-on.
Now, I'm not saying that that's the bottom line because Phil's a gamer. It's going to win. What I'm saying is when you have somebody like Phil who actually plays video games in charge of the company now, since he came on board, he steered the ship in the right direction.
But look at who else he hired, Jay. Phil is one of the best captains you can have as the ship. But
no, totally.
So you got Mike Ibarra, he's got a higher. He's competing with gamer score of like some of the people that play professional games. Everyone in his cabinet, if you will, plays games on a nightly basis. We have them on our friends list. We see them.
So when you have people like that, of course you've got people over at Sony that are playing video games as well.
Yes.
However, I see the companies are totally different. I see different visions when I think about them. When I think of Phil and Xbox, I just think of a bunch of gamers sitting around going like, okay, listen, we've made mistakes. We get that. Now, what is the purpose of what we're doing right now? Well, Phil's going to say to make the best system for the best games to be on it.
Right.
How's he going to do that? Well, he's going to do it by actually getting out there on the field and talking. I know of stories of him going to studios and being very critical of things that are not working out.
Right.
So I don't hear things of that because on Sony's side, because they don't really talk about those things. And that's what they're lacking over there. And that's why I feel like Sony's a corporation and Xbox are a bunch of gamers who have billions of dollars to toss around and really just give us the best that they can do now. They, for the longest time, I'm going to just say this and people are going to be mad, but Sony had the upper hand because Sony was for the gamers. It was simple. It was buy the system, you play your games, you got your PSN, everything worked. It was great. When Xbox One came out and was released, what a fucking shit show that was. How they fixed that now, and this is what's going to be interesting because this console generation we're sitting on right now, in terms of Xbox One and PS4, I consider that sort of vaporware. Like, it's cool that we have these systems, and the new Xbox One S is fucking top of the line. I love it. But until we see Scorpio Neo, that's the true next generation of what I think it should have been when we got these.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people feel like what we have now are stopgap.
Exactly. It's a stopgap. So when we get these next systems, we can start to see what these companies are really about.
Well, look at what we have, though, Jay. From the release, November 22nd, 2013 of the Xbox One, we have pretty much an entirely new Xbox staff. I mean, really from soup to nuts.
See, that's what's exciting, right?
It is.
If you can kind of put this into film perspective, if you look at Marvel versus DC, Marvel is kind of the Sony right now. Like currently, they know what they're doing. They understand their audience. They understand what needs to come out. But after a while, the same thing is not going to cut it anymore.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, they got to change it up. So they're changing the characters over at Marvel, and they're changing up the storylines. They're going in crazy directions. New films. Ant-Man was a totally different vibe than any of the other ones. We're going to get all those other ones coming out. But I don't see Sony saying, and I don't see Sony steering the ship right now saying, listen, we got PSVR right now. But past that, Neo's sort of floating around. We don't know what it is yet. Until I get that announcement, I can't really say who's going to win because it's going to come down to that. Because if Sony comes out and says it's the same thing as basically Scorpio, due to the fact that I rather play with the Elite controller, I'm going to buy the Scorpio.
Right.
I'm going to get both regardless, but I'm saying I'd go on that side.
Well, the thing is, Jay, and I know, and believe me, last time you were on the show, a few videos have been made by Digital Foundries and company. I know that you strongly feel that Sony won't take this laying down, but the thing is if everything is coming out as true, it does look like what's in the box is what's coming. Even if they higher clock a few things here and there, it doesn't seem that the Neo will be able to compete with the Scorpio just on paper. Does that mean that it'll transpire on screen? Maybe it won't transpire on screen much differently, but on paper, I don't think at this point in time, and even Digital Foundries went through and did an elaboration on what they could do, and then at the end they said, now how realistic is what we just proved to you? Very minute.
Now, let's keep in mind, though, you can argue that, okay, fine, Scorpio is going to be more powerful, which might mean that the elitist people are going to go over there and buy it all because it's more powerful. But gaming, again, really goes back to how good is the game.
How good are the games, right?
Yeah, if it runs fine, it runs fine. I don't really care.
We just said, okay, let's use an old Wizard of Oz. Who's actually behind the curtain for both of these companies? And on one side, you have Phil, Aaron Greenberg, and Mike Ibarra. There's many more I could name. And then on the other side, we have Sean Layden, Andrew House, and Yoshida. And when you look at the three on both sides that are running it, you said it yourself. Now you have a captain on the Xbox side that's not just, he's done live stream. You get a tweet. It'll say, join us at 1:00 Pacific time. Phil Spencer's just going to talk Crackdown. He came into an office, like a room that has a dry erase board and just about 12 executive chairs. And he just sat down. Someone handed him a controller, and they just started talking about his experiences with initial development of Crackdown 1. And he's playing the game, and he's like, shit. He's like, he didn't curse. He's like, shoot. He's like, he's playing the game, and he's like, oh, where did I leave off saying? Oh, that's right. We were talking about when we were having a hard time developing the characters. My point is, you have a true gamer. So now what I'm saying to you, Jay, is not only do we have the power, but now I'm going to add you start adding your Jenga blocks to give yourself more of a structure. Sony looks lost. They showed up to E3 and they showed games coming out 2018, 2019, 2020, maybe. Most of them are CGIs or just small what is it there? Can't even think of the word here. Just shots that were built from like PC that were pasted together. They did look a little like gameplay, but they said it was not in-game footage. So my point being is when Microsoft got off, Phil said when he took over after his first year, because the first year he took over, it is what it is. E3 is already in production, or things are moving. He said, I'm no longer going to show you a lot of just hoopla of what's coming. I want you guys to see gameplay. And that's what he's done. He's delivered games and watching somebody on stage with a controller in their hand playing the game. Did you see when they showed Forza Horizon 3? They had a player on PC, they had a player on Xbox, and they had a player on Xbox One S. And that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, that's really the vision as a gamer that you wanted to see come to life in front of you, whether you were at home watching on TV or you were in the audience. And that's not something we got from Sony. From Sony, we got a lot of empty promises in a 35-piece orchestra. So there's a huge difference where these companies are going. And I think here's where I'm going to get back to the power, Jay. I think where Neo is short in the power, if they aren't able to keep up with Scorpio, I do think that Microsoft could, I'm going to, not count my chickens before they hatch. I'm going to say that Microsoft could pull off one of the greatest comebacks in this generation in gaming history, possibly.
Well, it's really going to be a war, and it's going to really come down to the games. I mean, the systems are one thing. Okay, it's easy to create a system. It's the games that go on the system. Why is Nintendo still around?
The games,
based on their systems being complete and utter.
Nintendo doesn't need to be the most powerful console. They have the games.
See, that's what people don't understand, and it's like people are, Nintendo is dead. Well, no, Nintendo could release one fucking game and survive longer than both the other companies.
Agreed.
On that one game constantly. If they just released Legend of Zelda every year on the dime until that thing was ran into the ground, which hasn't been in 25 years.
Right.
You're telling me that they're done? Like, people who say that, I honestly believe have no idea what they're talking about.
I agree.
Because video games, again, are about video games. The gaming community is about passion and creating those memories deep down. You can sit around and say, hey, my Xbox is better than your PlayStation. At the end of the day, when you go outside and eat a donut at Dunkin' Donuts, nobody gives a fuck that you own a PlayStation or an Xbox at home.
No.
Community, because you want to feel like you're part of something.
That's right.
So
That's right.
I just got to say, again, it doesn't matter who's winning, which side's winning right now. Yes, PlayStation has more consoles out. That doesn't mean jack shit to me.
It doesn't.
Doesn't mean anything to me. I don't give a shit. I'm more curious, like, what's coming next. And you're right on the nose. And Sony has absolutely nothing over the next holiday that I'm like, oh my God, I can't fucking wait for it.
I mean,
like,
Gran Turismo Sport does not have you excited. I wouldn't expect it to have you excited, nor would I expect.
I mean, I used to be
The Last Guardian
fan. Well, Last Guardian's not my type of game, but I mean, I could see the interest in that. I could see why a lot of people like it. It's based on the fact that the studio who made it is very well known in that genre. I could say that GT, could be fucking spectacular on PlayStation 4. But the problem is, guess what? Where Sony dropped the ball, we have to be marketing again. They say, hey, it's going to have this. Oh, no, last second it doesn't have it. Okay, No Man's Sky's going to have this, this, and this. Guess what? No, it doesn't fucking have it. Hey, guess what? 2 years ago, here's Last Guardian. Oh, fuck, no, sorry.
But either the studio or Sony has lost their passion for Gran Turismo, and I'll tell you why, Jay. You're probably going, well, Mooch, where do you come up with that? The reason I say that is, if they had it, this wouldn't be GTS or GT Sport. This would be called GT7.
Yeah,
and
that's
just puzzling, isn't it? That we're 4 years into we're going into the fourth year into a generation, and in the Gran Turismo, their prime, their claim to fame in racing, is still doesn't have a 7, doesn't have a successor.
Listen, I sometimes believe that I shouldn't be on the journalist side of things. I should be on the strategy side of a company.
I'd love to be on the strategy side.
Because, you know, we all sit back and say, listen, I know what's going to save the day. I know what's going to save the day. Like, we all know what we're talking about. Now, I've actually studied sales and marketing. I used to work door to door for a company in Toronto here for a year and a half. And to do that was literally months and months of hardcore training, and then in the field, and then for a year on the field, and then being a manager of literally 2 vans full of people. So I had to go to the door, knock on the door, and essentially sign people up for 5-year contracts on something. Now, that is the hardest. Can you imagine that? So I walk into your house, Mooch, and I go, listen, this is this, sign up for this. And you go, how long is it? 5 years. And you're a homeowner. That's the hardest thing ever to do.
Yes, it is.
Yet I did it all the time because people are sheep.
Yeah.
That's as simple as that. People
absolutely.
I
say lemmings all the time. Yep.
Exactly. People don't know what they want until you show them what they want.
Right.
It's all creating demand, right? Just like in Wolf of Wall Street, he says, sell me this pen. And the first guy's like, oh, it's a nice pen. It looks good. And the next guy's like, no, that's not how you do it. Here, can you write my name down on there? Well, I need a pen. Okay, well, you're going to buy the pen now. It's that simple. You've got to create the demand for it. Nintendo has a demand built in because everybody has the demand to want to play the next first-party Nintendo game. So if you're sitting out there in the gaming community, you have to understand, if there's a demand, then all of your false hopes of that company going down in flames are dashed, because there's always going to be a demand for a new Mario game, Donkey Kong, Metroid, Zelda. I can go through all of them, and they'll all sell millions.
Yes, they will.
Now, when you look at Xbox, what's the demand, right? Xbox has to create a demand.
Yes.
That's what they need to do. So what did they do? They made the best fucking controller that I've ever used. There's the demand. I'm telling everybody, if you want to play on the best console, best controller, best feeling, customizable, all of that shit, boom, the Elite, they've created a demand now, right? What has Sony done? Sony
I can't wait to hear what we're going to say here, because I'm curious.
Where's Sony's demand? Is it No Man's Sky? Well, not really, because you can play it on PC. Okay, well then what is it this holiday season? Sony's demand is virtual reality. Okay, how much is it? Oh, holy fuck. It's more than I really want. Okay, let's step back here. That's your demand. I understand. Listen, as a gamer, I really want that fucking headset, but do I feel like dropping $700 Canadian on that thing? No, but I'll probably end up doing it somehow, but I don't want to.
Right.
Now, and there's a lot of kids out there that are not going to be able to meet that demand. So, okay, they go back to the drawing board. What's the second in line for demand? Okay, we'll an update. Okay, great. It runs better on the UI. Great. What else you got? We got that game that everyone's been waiting years for, and they're probably not as hyped for it anymore, called Last Guardian. Dude, that game can come out and be a 10 out of 10. You and I both don't know. Is that all they have for demand?
That's all that I'm aware of, what you just listed.
Exactly. Hear what I'm saying? Like, you got to create a demand. And at this point, it's stagnant. It's going to sit there. Xbox has a demand.
Yes,
I'm a huge fan of Forza. So to have Horizon 3, boom, sold. What's sorry? It's like, what? What did you say? Gears 4? Yeah. Okay, fuck, I'm totally in. Oh, what's this? A new console that has better frame rate than the last version. Okay, well, I'm a huge fan of Xbox, so I'm going to upgrade.
Did you see the new commercial they had too, Jay, for that Xbox One? It
I didn't
nailed
see
home the 4K thing, which is a buzzword for families and casuals.
Yeah, I mean, the 4K abilities of the Blu-ray player will sell that system on its own. Casual gamers, or sorry, even casual entertainment watchers will go to Best Buy and they'll be like, hey, well, I want to get 4K and I want, because it's coming around and over the next couple of years, 4K, 4K, 4K. But to get in early like this and be so cheap versus the other 4K players, and by the way, is also an Xbox One.
Right, so you get all the perks of the Xbox with the gaming system and the 4K player, which is
very, very. And people are like, oh, whatever, whatever. Oh, guess what? 2 terabyte model, fucking sold out.
Yeah, it's sold out. It's gone.
It's like, okay, well, you might want to recalculate your stupid opinion on that because it's sold out. Okay, well, people are saying, oh, it's not a big deal. It's sold out. Okay, well, then what the fuck do you want it to do? Like oversell?
Yeah,
like I don't understand.
Rain checks.
Exactly. It's like this is 1977 for Star Wars toys, and like you open up your present and it's a rain check for the fucking toys. Like, you hear what I'm saying?
Well, that's what people are saying. People are like, well, that's it. I said, do you understand that we're talking about the 2 terabyte is already sold out? And that's usually the one that's the hard sell, Jay, because the cheap one didn't even hit the market
Exactly.
yet.
That doesn't make sense. Those people complaining about that have no fucking clue what they're talking about. Oh, it's sold out. Big deal. What do you mean big deal? The purpose of releasing something into a retail store is to sell it out, you fucking idiot. You hear what I'm saying? It's like you get really angry with those people because they don't understand the logistics of being a fucking company. Listen, you can go into your bathroom and collect your shit and try to go sell it outside. If you sell it, that's success.
Yes.
That's what people don't realize in this industry. That's all they need to do. Sell the systems. Guess what they did? Sold them fucking out.
I'm thoroughly impressed because there was a lot of speculation, and of course, there's always a gray cloud over. They were scared that because Microsoft mentioned the Scorpio, that nobody would buy the S. Oh, I mean, please. I'm buying it. I'm getting my I'm getting my S next week, and I'm excited about it. I don't have any quarrels or worries about it, and I'm also buying a Scorpio. I mean, that's just without saying.
Microsoft is not fucking dumb. I'm going right back to the game plan. You know what you remember you came up with that plan, and you said you can go to EB Games, bring your Xbox One, and pay $100 to get the S.
Yes.
Are you telling me Microsoft? There wasn't somebody at Microsoft who said, "Listen, let's release this thing now because we're going to catch on to the 4K player market, and we're going to have a better system that has a higher frame rate, so we can finally put to bed and rest all that bullshit about the fucking resolution, the frame rate bullshit." And when Scorpio comes out, how many people are really going to want to go buy that? Well, it's going to be based on how powerful it is. Is it the next generation? They haven't really said what it is, right? So
they haven't.
They're going to sit back and go, well, listen, they'll just sell their Xbox One S's and upgrade if they're hardcore. And if they're not, then they already have our best product in terms of the Xbox One.
And because of UWP, they can play and enjoy the same game.
Exactly. So basically, you've got a company that's understanding all of that. And then, it's just, if you put up all of these things against Sony, I just don't see a demand anymore at the moment. Like, I just don't see it. I mean, Uncharted 4 has come to an end. We're obviously going to get an Uncharted 5, but how long is that going to take? We've got God of War, which to me is it's one of those things like people hate change, right?
Right.
So the fact that he's older and all of that stuff, I mean, some people are going to be pushed off of that, but bottom line is God of War is coming down the pipeline, but where is it? It's not here yet.
Right. It's also changed drastically, Jay. That's not the God of War you grew up playing.
No, but that could be a good thing. I'm not going to say that's a negative aspect of Sony.
I'll agree with you there.
But like other than that, like I can't, like I'm a gamer who watches everything, but I'm sitting back right now thinking like, what else does Sony have that I was excited about? Like, because right now I don't remember.
Yeah, that's
like even right now I'm sitting here and like, okay, VR, I want all of it. But, VR is what's going to hold them over.
You know what's going to happen, Jay? And I know you're excited about it, and you're going to play it. You're going to enjoy yourself, and then you're going to take it off, and then you're going to play like 3.5 hours of Forza 3. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, that's just like, because I mean, ultimately, when you're a gamer, right? That's just what you are. You're going to sit down comfortably. You've been doing this since 1980. You're going to sit down on a couch. You're going to have a controller in your hand, and you're going to be looking at your television. And Microsoft knows that, but I do think Microsoft's going to have their own version of VR. I mean, that's probably a whole other subject, but I'm saying I think Microsoft's going to do something on their own. I think they see the market. They keep specifically saying, especially at Gamescom, they've had 3 different announcements where VR will be exclusive to Scorpio. Because of course, you know, the Xbox One currently can't do something like that. We all know that.
VR is there. Again, VR is a whole other topic. We should have a whole show on VR and where we think that's going. But
yeah, well, listen, you know, I promise, listen, just to the audience, and thanks to everybody, well over 100 people. We got up to almost 160, 170 people today. I just want to say thanks to everybody. I told Jay goes, hey, so how long do you think this will be? I go, you know, we'll push for an hour. He goes, so an hour and a half? And now I know when Jay even says an hour and a half, I think we're flirting with 2.5 now. So,
dude, I could go for another 2 hours.
Jay, there's nothing. I think me and you combined, especially because, and the only reason I wanted to do more of an interview process in the beginning, because let's just be honest, even if I played No Man's Sky, you played it for 50 hours. I would have probably had 5 or 7 or maybe 12 in, so there was no place for me to speak on it. I'm well aware of it, but I wanted to get your just on it. But me and you could probably talk games and marketing strategy, etc.
Forever. We should definitely come back and do that. But I guess the last thing we should do is, like, because I appreciate your audience so much, it'd be cool if we took a few more questions and then close it out. Sure.
Actually, yeah. For the folks that stuck around here for our JKB Mooch telethon, who's got a couple questions for either JKB or me?
Dude, we should break a record. We should see the longest podcast in the history of podcasts and see if it's like.
I'm gonna write a quick text to my wife, say we need some dinner in here though. I'm all for it though, but yeah, absolutely. Oh, there we go. That's always nice. I love the trolls, and I also love the block button.
Was somebody calling me an idiot?
No, it was calling me one, which is even better.
I don't disagree.
Is JKB getting the nice? Thanks, Jay. Is JKB getting the NX?
Fuck yeah, of course. I'm a gamer.
Nice.
You know, NX is a whole other show for us to do as well. But I'll simply put it this: is it going to have a Zelda game on it? Yeah. Okay. Is it going to have a Metroid? Probably. Maybe. We don't know. Is it going to have a new Mario?
Give us a Metroid, and please don't. And I know what was the Metroid that last came out was the trilogy there that came out on the original Wii. That just didn't hit home for me. I know everyone loved it. I get it. I have it. I own it. I bought it digitally when it was $10 to get all 3 of them. Please give us a traditional like Super Metroid again, please. I mean, am I the only one that wants that?
I not necessarily. I got to say that both of those are really great.
You like the other one too, where you had to use the nunchuck?
Oh, well, when it went over to, well, whatever. Yeah. I mean, the nunchuck is what it is. I mean, I don't really want to get into it.
It made it unbearable for me. Real quick here, Jay, here's a good question. What does JKB think of Watch Dogs 2, the trailer and the game?
That's something I haven't looked into too much on purpose, because it's one of those things like, okay, the game is totally different vibe than the first one. And if you look at brand and marketing, and we're getting into it again, it has more of a electronic music sort of vibe, and the graffiti and the gangster sort of graffiti artist vibe to it. Like, instead of spray painting on the wall, they have laptops, and they're like going around hacking. It's like,
yeah,
I don't know yet. To be honest, I can't really say too much about it.
I didn't like the first one, so I mean, it's not fair for me to. I can definitely say this with the plethora of games coming out, Jay. I can tell you that Watch Dogs 2 is very far down on the purchase list.
I mean, the first one for me had flaws, but I overlooked them. I loved that game, but that's just me, right? In my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, hold on. I have another one here that this is a quick yes or no, and I think Jay's already talked to me about it, but there are a couple people have been asking, will you make another appearance again on Crossfire? Our podcast on Fridays. People do want to see you on there. They like it when you're contributing with the group.
Yeah, of
So
course.
I appreciate that. Thank you for that question. And then what do I have here? This is an let me see if I so Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider on PS4. A question for JKB and Mooch. Are you guys going to buy that on PS4?
No.
I will not be. No.
You know why? Because I played it how long ago? Already on my Xbox, and now I'm playing it on my Xbox One with better frame rate. Realistically, why would I go buy it on PlayStation?
And that's my whole point too. I mean, I just don't,
It's not a knock. I'm saying
no, not at all.
If you have a PlayStation, you're out there right now, go and play this game. It's fucking spectacular.
Looking here, I'm trying to read some other questions here.
Yeah, let's knock a few more out and see.
Well, yeah, here's one for you, Jay. Your thoughts: augmented reality versus virtual reality.
Well, there's two applications for them. I mean, one's entertainment and one's more of a tool. Both of them can be used as tools. However, the AR really is more of a tool than VR. VR is actually to kind of entertain you, put you into a different atmosphere, put you, like I told Mooch on the last podcast I was on, it's about creating those magical moments that you had as a kid and pretending that you were on a far off distant planet. It's kind of like what No Man's Sky was supposed to be, but you get to do it by putting a headset on. Now, the other aspect of this is with AR, they can do games that you've always wanted to be able to play.
Yes.
But the limit of having a screen in front of your face would stop it. Now, I'm going to
see the Mario Brothers thing that was out on Twitter.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
It's cool, but it's not like fucking spectacular.
It's not revolutionary, but
now I'll tell you what's spectacular right now, Mooch. I'll sell you on AR right fucking now.
Please do.
If I'm a kid and I'm at my house and you're at your house and we're both 17-year-olds though, we're 17,
right?
And we're nerds, complete fucking nerds, and we love Dungeons and Dragons. But you've moved away. You're gone. Now, if I'm sitting at the company that owns Dungeons and Dragons right now, you better sure as shit believe I'm developing an AR game, Dungeons and Dragons version with chat room, obviously working with the headset. And then can you fucking imagine all of a sudden now, I'm set this out for you guys. You've got a big table. You're going to need space on the table. On the table, you're going to have a board that comes with the purchase of this AR game.
Yeah.
Pop the AR game into your system. You put the board down. Then you have these little figures that have AR markers on them, of course.
Yep.
And when you look at them in person, they simply just look at like little cardboard pieces or plastic with markers on them. Right. However, you look through the AR and they turn into fucking dragons. It turns into a dungeon that you can remove the roof of.
It looks like the original Star Wars when they were playing that chess game. There's actual
absolutely. Creatures. That is what AR is for. It's for playing games like that. Now, tell me right now, you guys out there listening,
I'm already sold. I would buy one off you right now.
Listen, aren't excited to play Magic the Gathering with AR, where the cards come to life and dragons actually attack the other cards. That's what AR is. Okay, I could sell the AR to you nonstop. AR is simply put a different way of experiencing the medium. So with VR, I got to say I'm more excited for VR. However, can you imagine, guys, instead of buying, or for instance, Star Wars comes out and you've got AR at home. At the theater, Disney decides, listen, let's give them a little bonus. So we'll give them this AR book. You get home, guys, pop it on, put it in front of your AR, and then you're fooling around with like this pop-out virtual world of Star Wars, and you can interact with it on your tabletop. It's fucking spectacular to be able to do those things, but it's limited in what it can do, right? There are two different aspects here. VR puts you into an atmosphere. This is your atmosphere and bringing tools into it. So it's also going to be used for education. So can you imagine going to a classroom instead of actually sitting there cutting open, say, a fucking rat or whatever and looking at it, you just put AR on now, or say you got to take notes or whatever. She can, it's basically
AR just goes well beyond the gaming.
I can use ET for every single reference. Remember when ET puts the planets up in the air and they're revolving and he points at his planet and says, that's home. I need to go there.
Yep.
Just use that in the fucking classroom, Oh my God. Except it's going to look much better.
Microsoft said this. I sound like an advertisement for them and I don't mean to, but it really does change the way we live.
Well, it changes a lot of things. For instance, to be able to, the next step of AR would be to be able to say my grandma is sick and she's in an old folks home. Say I want to play cards with her, but she wants to play like with real cards. But you know what I mean? It's like you can kind of do that, but With AR, you'd be able to do things like that. Virtual cards. They would just change the face on the card. I know that sounds silly, but I'm sure
you're giving instances, examples.
I'm giving very good examples of what AR would be. Okay, say your mom's cooking and you're like, oh, I want to know how to do this, right? AR, you pop it on, she shows you ingredients, and you can ask a question. She could show you virtually in front of you, Okay.
Yeah, Microsoft did an example where they showed a father and his daughter. I mean, of course they were acting, but it was a show right in front of you, and they were the father was on travel for work, but he was actually home doing an activity with his daughter via AR. It was amazing.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. AR versus VR. I think both of them are spectacular, but AR is not going to be as popular as VR because VR is really tied into gaming to a certain degree, which I feel that it actually shouldn't be, but it is. And AR, I'm very excited for as well.
I'm going to end the show on one more question from Lady Foxfire. She says, hey, Mooch and JKB, what are your thoughts on all these remasters? Which I think is a great way to end it because I'd really like to hear your take. This has been the generation of remasters, and we still have the BioShock one coming out this year or so.
There's a reason that this is the generation of remasters. You've got Microsoft and Sony sitting back saying, let's get the consoles out. They should have done it a year after it came out. I think that they basically pushed each other into that predicament.
Yeah.
And it's simple, guys, right now. You got to look at it this way. If I'm a huge company and I'm sitting on a bunch of 360 games that we could just polish up and put out that were, you know, very big at the time, like let's say Mass Effect Trilogy is coming out in remaster. Actually, use Skyrim, right?
Yeah.
Here's how remasters really work. Everyone's usually played a remaster. Right? A lot of you have, right?
Absolutely.
However, think about the business aspect. Some people, this is the first console they've had. So this is the first time they're going to be playing the game. That's number one. That's a small percentage. However, it does go to the profit line. The second thing is, I'm going to take it back to what I always say on the show, which is games are about experiences and memories. If I can go back into Skyrim, and I'm not a PC lover, so I don't have HD Skyrim, right? I can put that in my system now and have HD graphics on my Xbox One, frame rate's amazing, all of that shit using the best controller now, but reliving those amazing moments of getting on top of a dragon and slaying it in HD now, remastered. You're telling me that why would I not do that? I mean, if I'm a gamer, I could go back and play the old one.
Well, Jay, let me say this. I want to agree, and I want to piggyback on what you're saying. Is this at this point in time in the generation, because we have so many new games, it is exciting to go back and enjoy them. I think the beef with remasters early in this generation was that was all we were getting.
Well, it's because of the development cycles were all wrong. Because again, these systems were not supposed to come out when they came out. They're supposed to be a year later, which would mean all of the games had an extra year for development. And that's why games came out and were missing giant fucking chunks. Like, look at Second Son on PlayStation 4. Fucking spectacular game. Looks amazing, but not too much is going on in it.
Right.
I'll tell you why. Because it wasn't supposed to be out for another year, and they had to backpedal and take things out and fix the patch and just send it out. And what happens in that case is, like, they're not just sitting there going, okay, let's work on this game now. They're also working on the next version of that game. You know, there's certain teams and parts of the team saying, like, when they worked on Skyrim, okay, let me just say this. There's people that are working on these games, and they're literally saying to them, no, don't put that in this game. We have to save that for the sequel. So we're getting a lot of that as well.
Skyrim had a lot of problems when it released, in its first last generation. Do you think we're going to see any of those problems, or this is going to be one polished piece at this point?
At this point, it better be flawless. If it comes out and has issues like Fallout 4 did, then this means that they're having issues with the infrastructure of the systems themselves. It can't be the games. The games are fucking polished for years.
Well, I'll give you. Can I throw an example at you, Jay? That we had a problem with the remaster was the Handsome Collection. Borderlands. That had a problem, and that shouldn't have, right?
Well, no, it shouldn't. But this is also different technology. Could be a bunch of different shit, right? We don't know what it is. You and I don't make video games. We play them, right? So we don't really know what it takes to take a game and put it over here. Unless you do it, you really don't know. I mean, we don't really have companies coming out talking about that sort of thing, right? And usually it's second party, companies making these games. It's not the first party company, so they don't quite understand the code as well as the first party did.
Right.
So they're kind of looking at it going, okay, we get it. It goes like this. It's like you and I do a puzzle together and we understand it. Then we break it apart and throw it to somebody and tell them to do it in half the amount of time or they're fired. You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
Oh God, we got to get on this right away. They're not going to understand certain aspects of it. They're not going to be as quick as we were. Right. So
I agree.
When you get, when you get people that don't understand things, then of course there are things that could go wrong. So games should not come out and have issues ever. Not just remasters. The fact that we live in a day and age where I play a game that has to have fucking 20 updates that are not content based, like updates so the game doesn't fucking crash.
So it doesn't crash.
It's pathetic. It's like, it's the same thing. And it's the amount of money we spend on these things. Like, think about this. You go buy a car. Oh shit, the tire fell off. We better upgrade that. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I ordered a pizza and the pepperoni's not on it. We better upgrade the pizza. Like this shit, like I went and bought a shirt, but the buttons aren't on it, so I can't button it up, but we're going to send them over and have them sewed on. That doesn't happen in anything else, really. Why does it happen in gaming, and why is it allowed?
It really shouldn't be. So here's another question for you, Jay. This is in the chat. I got to ask you this. What do you think initial sales price will be? What will the retail price be for Project Scorpio?
It's got to be... See, I think Phil's vision is not to create a PC with that thing. He still wants it to be a console. However, I think he's looking at the architecture of a PC and going, okay, we need to like make it more powerful than a lot of PCs as well. So we have to obviously look at that technology, and in looking at that technology and how much things cost, you know, if it's 4K and it does 4K native and it has a 4K Blu-ray player in it, which I obviously will, I bet you it has some surprises up its sleeve as well. But it also is going to be a little bit more than we're usually spending on a console.
Absolutely.
I think, I think it's going to be about, I think there's going to be two versions, probably like a 1 terabyte and I think maybe at the time it comes out, they could drop some craziness of a 4 terabyte, 2 different hard drives running together.
Maybe a 2 and a 4 at that time. Only reason I say is that these games are going to demand much more space. Exactly.
So I'm thinking realistically here, in terms of US pricing, I mean, how much is the Xbox One S?
The
2 terabyte over there.
The 2 terabyte was $399 here.
Because over here it's $499. So I'm just trying to figure that out. So I'm going to say it's going to be between $549 and $599, somewhere in there.
Okay, so
US.
Yeah, so about between $550, $600.
Yeah, I mean, I realistically look at how fucking powerful it is. It's got to be in the same bracket as a decent PC, right? And a decent PC is like 5 something, right? Or like not a decent, but like you're starting there, right?
Absolutely. That's exactly it.
But they have to be competitive too, right? They can't be like, okay, $799.
Well, that's what we were saying. Even though Microsoft may be giving you more in the box, we do have to look at it this way. Let's say Sony's the 4.2 T flop and it's the 6, whatever. That's fine. If Sony's coming out and they're 450, Microsoft can't be 650. They can't. They just can't. They're going to have to be 499 or 550 at most.
There's no way Neo's 450.
I'm with you. I think Neo's 500 all day.
Yeah, I think both of them are going to be very close in price.
Well, the thing is that makes it a little bit better for Microsoft. Listen, because they chose next year, these prices are supposed to drop with that new technology coming out.
I'm going to tell you one thing that I didn't like about the Xbox One S. There was no headset included with it.
Yeah, we've been talking about that.
Now, that's not a huge deal, but I'm going to say this. I'm going to say it to Phil, too, because there's a chance he could hear this maybe someday. Phil, I don't care if it's an extra $50. I want an amazing headset to go along with my Elite controller.
Yes.
And I want... when I pick up that Scorpio, I want a new version of the Elite controller just with that.
Yes.
And if you give me a headset that's fucking spectacular, top of the line, never need another one. I'm talking about full over-ear headset, like Xbox full tilt, very expensive headset with a controller that is just mind-blowing, Phil. I will buy that easily if it's an extra $100. I don't give a shit. I don't want to buy it separately. Hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's just me in speaking in terms
so
of
that would be the way I'm reading that would have to be its own SKU though, Jay, right? Because not every customer feels that way.
no. That's why I was going to
Right.
add on there that I'm the hardcore audience in saying
Right.
that. Right, as a hardcore person, I'll be really hardcore here. If you bring the price down or bring it up and put a VR headset in there, and it works fine and everything out of the box, I'll fucking buy that one.
Well, realistically, and maybe I'm wrong in saying this, we'll find out how wrong I am in 12, 13 months, maybe 14 months, whatever it launches. I think that the Elite controller will be the standard controller eventually.
It has to be because it's so good. I think that the price needs to come down on it a little bit.
Yeah, it should be it should be $99 now, and it should be included later.
See, this is the thing. This is what, if I'm working at Xbox right now, that's one thing I'm pushing. The Elite controller is mandatory in all sales of the Scorpio on the baseline model, no matter absolutely what. And if I come to the gamers and tell you, listen, we're not going to give you the standard Xbox One controller experience. You guys are getting top of the line with this. And we've also added this, this, and this to it. That's another selling point because you got to keep in mind people overlook these things, but the controller is a huge aspect of playing video games. Yes. And the controller on Xbox One S now and Xbox One is the best fucking controller you can buy, period.
Yes.
I don't care what anyone says. If you put that in a gamer's hand versus the PlayStation 4 controller or the Steam controller,
it's day and night.
Or anything, it literally is actually day and night in terms of the analog sticks. They're fucking spectacular.
Yes.
You're not going to have the customization anywhere else. I don't care if you go buy one of those customized $400 controllers. Why would you do that?
Somebody in the chat just said something, Jay. This is about the Elite controller. I agree with that person. They said make the Elite controller with the replaceable analog stick thumbs. They change out there, but maybe to make it more affordable, so we have the same weight and feel. Just get rid of the paddles in the back. So if you remove that and put the heaviness of the Elite, basically the Elite controller, just remove the paddle option. That may be an affordable choice if it happens to be a money issue next year.
No, well, the paddles are amazing.
They are. They really are.
You play Rainbow Six with those things on Xbox One, and holy shit, are they important? Very important in games like Rainbow Six. Very important.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to just draw me the quickest napkin sketch, Jay, after this, and send it to me on Twitter of just label them A, B, C, D on the back of it, and tell me what you have them used for in Rainbow Six.
Oh, okay. I don't. It's been a while since I played that, but I will.
Or whichever. I'm always interested. That's something that I'm interested in. Maybe that's just a weird thing about me. Whenever someone makes that, I always ask them, like, tell me how you can. I'm always interested in people's configurations.
Okay, I'll tell you how to do it. It depends if you're left-handed or right-handed. First,
I'm right-handed.
So basically, you do it by, what's the word I'm looking for? Like how many times you use that button. So if say the button, say throwing a grenade is tied to X.
Yes.
And Y is tied to building walls in Rainbow Six, of course. Now you probably use those both, right? But there's one that you probably use a little bit more. So you would put that on your whatever hand you are on.
Yes.
So are you right-handed?
Yes.
So I would put it on to your index finger.
Okay.
Your quickest finger then.
Yes.
So your strongest finger is your second index finger, I guess, like your middle finger.
Your middle finger, yes.
Yeah, I would use that for whatever you use the most because that is essentially the finger you're going to be using the most in the game. Hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
You've got the most reflex with that. So that's usually how I look at those things.
Okay. So you're basically saying your most used you put on the reflex of your fastest finger, which in this case, if you line it up, is the middle finger on the back of the paddle.
Yeah, exactly. And the hand that you use the most. So if you're right-handed, use your right hand. Because if you do it in your left, it's going to have a little bit of a delay no matter what because you don't use your left hand for much. I mean, you do, but I mean, in terms of gaming, think about it. Most people, when they game, are right-handed. And when you're just playing a game, essentially, you're only using your left hand for the left trigger, the left bumper, and the analog stick, right?
Right.
But your right hand uses everything.
Absolutely. Everything's done on the right. Yeah. Everything.
And so that's why I'm saying you're already quicker with that. So you may as well try to get over the hump of learning that because there's a bit of a hump when you get the Elite controller of understanding.
Well, there is, and that's why I'm so interested in people's configurations.
You got to get over whatever is comfortable for you, to be honest, is the best.
Okay. Myself personally, that's what I'm going to play. I have to figure out I've been told by a number of people, whether it be Gears or Destiny, whatever it is for shooting, you always want to have squat down. Go ahead.
Sorry, I thought of Gears and the Elite controller, dude.
Yes.
Oh, I can't.
Tell me, because
So,
I think I have an idea where you're going.
well, it's so smooth.
Absolutely, but I'm saying a lot of Gears is crouching behind.
Yeah, like I'm gonna put the crouch button onto the back. Oh my god, it's gonna be so good.
That's what I'm saying. So now you're moving up with your left analog. You're moving up. You're moving up. All of a sudden, you just hit that middle on the back. You're already holding it, dear. Tight. Boom. Now you're just crouched right under there.
People don't realize also the controller turns into a hair trigger controller.
Yes, that's what I use every day. That's my
for games when you're like a sniper or any of that. I've never even turned those things off unless the game.
I haven't either.
No, you won't. You won't. Like Rainbow Six, you're telling me you turn that? Nobody turns that off.
No, you never turn that off. I will tell anybody little secret here, because I did this and people were like, "Oh my god, I'm glad you told me that." I just found it. If you're playing Destiny and you get on your Sparrow and you have your triggers on short pull, your Sparrow goes like 3 miles an hour. You wonder why your friends take off. You have to actually shut off the left trigger hair pull because it doesn't give the full blasters. I'm sitting there and I have the best Sparrow in Destiny, Jay, and my friends are like, they're gone. I'm like, the fuck is wrong with mine? When I go, what are you guys pressing? What's wrong? And they're like, I don't know. Finally, I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, this thing's not fully depressing. I have to actually like release it, and then your thrusters go.
That happened with Tomb Raider for me. I was, I think it was with the bow. You have to turn it off because the bow, you have to pull it in, right? And for some odd reason, it wasn't working properly either.
Yes, you're right. Yep, I found that out too with it. Yep.
But in saying all of this, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's funny. We have me and Jay. Next time we do this, we're just ordering takeout food. We'll just go all night, bro. I can do this with you.
I could still go for another hour. I mean, I'm down.
My wife is definitely gonna come in here and rip the computer off.
One more question.
Let's take one more.
Very last one. So let's make it a good one, and then we're gonna head out.
Let me see if I can find one here. Now let me scroll through.
But I'm gonna ask everybody to follow me on Twitter after this.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jay, give your Twitter handle right now. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it's at JayHooft.
I'm going to be putting all of Jay's information into the description right after this show. So you'll have his Twitter handle and you'll also have his YouTube channel.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate if you guys at least came to watch some of my videos. And if you like my reviews, subscribe. If not, thanks for checking them out.
Yeah, I find it. Listen, the best part of your reviews, Jay, okay, the reason I'm still constantly going to your channel is I said this. I don't always agree with everything that is in your review, but I love your presentation. I like the way you're so charismatic and you give a shit, and we can tell you're a gamer at heart. You know what I mean? Look, when it comes down to it, you said it yourself. You're not a fanboy in either camp, but you've clearly pointed out even during this show what you prefer, that one company does better than the other. Okay, one just being the Elite controller. You've made it very clear. And I mean, that's what I like about you, and that's why I have no problem. You're fair for someone who, in my opinion, you have a large audience in your YouTube community. I think you're very fair on all sides of the coin, and that's all I've ever asked. And I don't feel like with big gaming sites, I don't think we get that.
Well, you know what it is for me? It's because I don't want to be a bully. I don't want to sit up here and be like, hey, my thing's better than your thing. Right. I mean, the kids have to deal with that in high school enough of bullies saying like, hey, whatever I'm saying is right and what you're saying is wrong. I like to just say, listen, maybe you missed this, or maybe you need it to be explained to you differently, or maybe you get it, or maybe you just hate me. I don't care either way or any of those ways. I just want to be able to say, here's what I thought. If it helps you out, that's what I'm going for.
I don't know. See, these questions are always great to hear the answer. Sith Effect says, Jay, what's your game of the year so far?
Oh man.
Of course, there's a plethora of games coming out, so this is going to change. I have a feeling.
I honestly can't say.
It's hard, right? It's just hard.
I could be playing a game right now that no one else is playing. That could be
hypothetically.
Yeah, that could be my game of the year right now, but I don't know.
I love how Jay, you're like a great liar. Let's see here. What do you got? I'm
saying I could be playing the game. Maybe.
You might not.
Probably not. I doubt it though.
What's your opinion? Not based upon whether you have it or not. That's indifferent. Stay oblivious.
This is the last one, guys.
What do you think? Is it Recore? Yes.
Oh well, this is a bad one to take because I've purposely not looked at any of it.
Okay, so, all right, so we're not taking that one.
Yeah,
Beam. All right, Beam versus Twitch. Your thoughts from?
Oh God, I didn't even try Beam yet.
Look at these.
So there's got to be. Let's get a good question here that I know something about. I'll get to Beam. I'll get to Beam.
Not gonna. Well, I'll ask you this. This is just yes or no, and I know the end. Deus Ex for JKB, of course. The answer is absolutely. I believe. I'm not gonna answer that.
What was that one?
Just what's your console of the year? That's just ridiculous. People are just crazy. Come on, ask Jay. Jay's played probably more games
Xbox
than any
One
of us.
S will be console of the year after holiday season.
There you go, folks. That's a great answer. I'm with him on that. Vive or Rift?
They want to. Yeah.
Vive
or Rift? Vive.
Definitely Vive.
The idea of having the setup in the room, holy shit, is it much better? It can be better, I should say. It's not. It's based on what they create for it, but I mean, with the idea of having the room, I like the sensors. It really understands where you're standing. Blah blah blah. It's better.
It's just I've heard that from many people that have used it now. Not that Rift is. I'm not getting any good questions here.
Come on, guys.
Come on, everybody.
How many people are watching right now?
Currently, we have we're at 100.
You guys are all amazing.
We have absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. So, like, honestly, I've never had the response that I get from being on your show anywhere.
I really appreciate that. And that speaks volumes to the great community that we have. Jay, listen, part of what's great about gaming that people just don't understand is gaming has become very social. I mean, I sit on the couch, I turn my Xbox on, I grab my phone, I go to the Xbox app, and I write to all of the fans. Everyone that writes me, they write something. Sometimes it's only a one-liner I send back. Sometimes it's more detailed.
Yeah, but
I keep in touch with them.
It's so fun.
I love it. I love it. That's what I do. People go, why do you dedicate so much time to this? I'm like, because I truly, when people people would think that this is work, but I don't. I think this is fun. Like, it's something I really, truly enjoy to do. I thank everybody that follows me on Twitter. I thank everyone that follows me on YouTube. And I thank people like you, Jay, because to be honest with you, remember, before I even hit I'm going to do a YouTube channel, I signed up for all this stuff. I was watching you. I was watching other people like you. And that's why I think that I look up to people like you in the community, because you give a shit about gaming. And a lot of people just think I'm just Xbox. That's fine. I have an Xbox following. I am an Xbox guy. But the reason that I took the stance that I took when I started all this was I just thought that there needed to be a voice on the Xbox side, because there's no voice. The media was just pushing Sony. And granted, I know, yeah, they had GDDR5 versus DDR3. Great. But, like, that's not necessarily what the casual gamer knows. Nobody knows what we're talking about.
I totally get it. When somebody says to you, why do you spend so much time doing this? Next time anybody asks anybody out there, just say, why are you eating food today?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I love it. Like, it's something I feel like I need it. Like, it's just something I love to do.
There's their answer. So
yeah, no, outstanding. And Jay, thanks for coming on. I'm going to make sure that I put all of your information into the details below. And, of course, I'm going to be retweeting the crap out of this for the next.
Well, I just realized if somebody wants to ask me a question, just tweet at me right now, or I'll send you my Facebook group. You can get in contact with me in the Facebook group as well.
Yeah, make sure to definitely follow Jay on Twitter and hit him up on YouTube, because especially not that I'm discrediting one or the other, but his YouTube is really where Jay gets a chance to shine, because like your reviews are great. Plus, you're gonna have a plethora coming out this holiday season, so you're gonna be quite busy, buddy. You're gonna be behind the camera, or in front of the camera, quite a bit.
It's gonna be crazy.
So with that, I want to say tomorrow we do have Jez Gordon coming on the show. He's Windows Central, and he's just getting back home from Gamescom. He was there, had interviews with Aaron Greenberg and I believe Larry Herb, so we'll get a chance to speak to him. And then we'll have some of the usual suspects. We will be on 3 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, and I hope to catch everybody. JKB, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's nothing but an honor to be with you on this show.
No, thank you, man.
All right, man, and looking forward to gaming with you. We'll talk to JKB again. Hopefully he'll grace us on Crossfire in a few weeks. I'll hit him up. Don't worry. Good night, everybody.